Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. The Game of Thrones, Season 1, Episode 8, The Pointy End. Oh, gosh, this was a freaking awesome episode. It was so good to watch this. And this originally aired on June 5th, 2011. And also, it's worth mentioning that this is the very first episode of Game of Thrones for George R.R. Martin to have written the episode, and it sure fucking shows because it just understands so many elements of the characters. Such a great episode, everybody. Hi, I'm Phil, the Issues Guy. Good to talk to you guys tonight. See you guys already in the chat talking away about this episode, getting hyped to talk about some Game of Thrones Season 1, to hop back in that time machine and go back to June 5th and listen to Adele's Rolling in the Deep or some crap like that was going on in 2011. Joe Dirty Locks and Katie Crow will be with us tonight. That's why we're a little late starting. I was trying to stall for as much time as possible, so there's as little time without Joe as much as they could possibly do. He went to an appointment. The appointment was supposed to be at 5 o'clock. It was a doctor's appointment. The doctor's supposed to see him at 5. It's now as of 6:41, an hour and a half later, hour and 40 minutes later, and he has not been seen. So he is pissed off. He's ready to go crazy. He's going to call in the Hound to go do some business to that doctor. So he'll be with us as soon as possible. I got the phone ready to go, and whenever Joe pops in, but I didn't want to wait. I had to talk about this episode. I've watched this a bunch, getting ready to talk about it, and it's really exciting to get back to talking about Game of Thrones. Oh, wow. We got and we've been watching some real crap here on the stations lately with shows that have been premiered here in the future. Bastard Executioner and Fear the Walking Dead have not been great, but those shows won't be mentioned too much here tonight. Wow. I really hope, from what happened in this episode, I really hope Ned ends up okay. And I really hope Rob can put together all these forces and go up and save Ned, because he's in real trouble. And that Littlefinger guy that I was trusting up until last week, maybe it's a different agenda. I think he's working for Ned's best interest. We'll see. But yes, we have everybody in the chat. Lots of love to you guys. Oh my God, it's great to see all of you in the chat. And to answer a couple of your questions before, and I'm going to do my warning now. Yes, we are talking about Game of Thrones Season 1 in 2015. So, okay, here's a warning. If you've never watched Game of Thrones before and you're watching this before you're watching the episode, or before you've watched future events, if this is your first watch of Game of Thrones, we're going to try to be good about spoilers to the future, but I can't make any promises. It's one of those things. It's once you've opened the box, it's kind of hard to try. We're going to really try. We're going to go out of our way to act like we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it may slip up. So if you're really, really sensitive about those things, don't read the chat and don't watch this video. Turn off this video now. Come back later. Go watch all of Game of Thrones and come back and watch this and watch me try to pretend to not fuck up on spoilers. So that's just our warning to you, to answer a question someone had in the chat. Yeah, we're try to hold back spoilers for the future, but you can heavily hint, and if you slip up, this is gonna be, I'm going to ban you, motherfucker. How dare you say that? How dare you tell me Littlefinger is gonna be a bad guy? I don't want to hear that. And as someone also mentioned, it's kind of fun to examine that at a standpoint, kind of step out of time. Sometimes we do the Zach Morris freeze for a second, and we'll step out of the time and talk about it from a perspective of right now. So again, if you're really, really sensitive about spoilers and you have not watched all of Game of Thrones yet, this is your warning. It's a big fucking warning.
Get the fuck out.
There it is. Critch says, one can only hope, Phil, but I think Littlefinger might be a bit sketchy, but at least Sansa's safe. Yeah, Sansa looks like she's in a good situation. The queen looks like she's really going to take care of him. Her and Joffrey seems like he really gives a shit. So I'm glad she's in a protective situation. She's probably a lot better off than Arya. Excuse me, did I say that right? Someone correct it. It's not Arya, it's Arya. But I mispronounce the sometimes. I'm like the, whatever. So forgive my mispronunciations as I go. At least I don't call Peter Petire. I'm gonna call him Peter Baelish. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. I am, as you could probably already tell, before we get into the recap, I'm going to stall for a little extra time, maybe a few more shenanigans, so we can give Joe as much time as possible to get here before we dig deep. But Joe and the Crow will fly into here when they do. So let's get into talking about this episode piece by piece, especially the beginning, because the beginning of this episode, there's a lot of speculation about what we're about to get into. And right away, this episode has so many iconic moments of Game of Thrones. It's so great to get back here and see when everything's just so tight. It's rapidly wound around the source material, and it's just so great. And that's not to say that everything needs to be completely to the source. There's a lot of changes in this episode from book to show, and I think both work in their own universes. I just think the show is at just such a high quality in this first season. It's shocking. Going back and watching it, I'm just like, oh, what the hell? It floors me how entertaining and marvelous the performances are, and how marvelous each one of all the stories are. Oh, we have a telephone call. Do we have a call? Is that happening right now? Did we just... Is someone calling me? Can I, sorry everybody for the pause. I'm trying to find where the phone call is coming from. It sounded like someone was trying to call me. If someone was trying to call me, oh, here it is. Unknown caller. Welcome to the show, caller. How are you? If you're trying to call, please call back, because I'm failing at life right now and had the volume turned down and couldn't figure out where I was to take your fucking call. I'm a mess. My little crow and my co-host friend aren't with me. It's a freaking mess. I don't know what I'm doing. I got cats all around me, dogs to the left of me. Here I am stuck in the middle. But guys, if you want to join the fun, you can call in at 781-990-8509. That's 781-990-8509. You can also send me an email at igotissuesman@gmail.com. Hop in the chat, share your thoughts of this episode and what's going on. Send your love out to Joe so he can read it later. Dealing with a horrible situation right now that he's pissed off about, ready to freak out and start doing knives to the metaphoric knives to the backs of people's heads. So we send Joe out our love. Critch says, I agree, these episodes are mint. Everyone after is a jewel. Absolutely. That's the most annoying thing from the Sam says, yeah, the P tire. He also calls the audiobooks, he calls Caitlin a bunch of times, and Joffrey Jeffrey. I'm pretty sure he does that several times in the audiobooks. But some of the pronunciations in the audiobooks are ridiculous. It is. It's cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria, everybody. People are hard on Ghostbusters too. I gotta like the movie. So the episode opens up with Syrio Forel and Arya training, and it's cut with the aftermath of what we saw at the end of last episode, with everyone turning on Ned. And the last of the Stark soldiers are being massacred, as we hear, yeah, left, right, high, low, all that fun stuff. And oh, whoops, sorry about that. Oh, no, don't do that.
A snake said you would threaten a child.
So the episode opens up, and it's training is cut with their high-low. We see the last of the Stark guys getting killed. We see Ned Stewart, Valen Poole get killed. A quick shot of that. And then we get to see Sansa and Septa Mordane walking down the hall. And it's an interesting exchange between the two of them. Your sister knew perfectly well we were supposed to leave today. They're bitching about Arya. And how could she forget? And Sansa says she didn't forget. She's with her dancing master. She's with him every morning. She always comes back with scrapes and bruises. I think this is interesting because I don't, we're not going to dwell too much on book stuff, but it's kind of interesting when there's certain associations where we're inside both girls' heads in the book. And with Arya, there's a moment where at certain points in times where she wonders if everyone believes she's just in dancing lessons. And this shows that Sansa is dumb and self-absorbed enough to not give a shit that she comes home with bruises. She's so clumsy. I mean, come on. Yeah, she's learning how to dance. You would think she would know her sister better than this, but it's very true to character of Sansa. And early on, I love both of these girls' performances of these two sisters. And in a lot of ways, leading up to this point. This episode is theirs. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, but it's bookended with Sansa's thing, and it's really starting to get into her head. And as someone said earlier, I think she's in an okay position here. I think the queen has some sort of affinity for her and isn't going to let anything bad happen to her. And I think Joffrey really seems to care. And, I mean, we don't get a real big glimpse of what kind of person Joffrey's going to be. I thought it was a little weird how he yelled at Barristan. We'll get to that. But it seems like he's a reasonable individual. I mean, maybe a little green to be king. But I think Sansa might be in a pretty good position. And since she played the game, I hope Ned is in a good position. And I mean, we can't listen to things like what Rickon was saying to Bran, being like, "Oh my God, they're all going to die." They're not all going to die. That's just not going to happen. It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. There are heroes. The story's about the goddamn Starks. Everyone's safe. Not today. So anyway, Scepter Mordain sees kind of like a rapey mob coming towards her, the best kind of mobs, the rapey mobs, and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And she sends her away, and she goes, "Go to your room, lock your door, do as I told you, run that way." As Scepter Mordain sort of it gets engulfed by so she ends up having the bastard son of 1,000 maniacs, over 100 maniacs. And it's a pretty scary moment where you realize what she's doing and everything that we've seen from her so far and how hard she is on the girls, but she's very protective and definitely has a real strong affinity for Sansa and puts herself heavily on the line here and protects her. And I think that's really important. It's worth mentioning that as much as it's easy to shit on her, and she's a little bit of because of the way she acts towards Arya, not understanding that kind of person, she really feeds in and understands Sansa and seems to really care about her, and she protects her. And it's sweet. It's sweet. Crit says Sansa is clueless at this time, true to her center of her universe perspective. Kiwana says, really, did Ned hide his allowance of his daughter learning swordplay? Yeah, I believe he did. I believe he told most people that she was getting the dancing instructions. I don't believe he wanted to spread around that his child was doing swordplay, but I don't know. I know he asked a bunch of different people. He had a couple of different offers of different people to train her, and he decided on Syrio Forel, but I believe he probably told his family, wouldn't want to get back to Catelyn. It seems like at least Sansa thinks that she is actually just going to dancing lessons. Sam says, hopefully Sansa can save him with her relationship with Joffrey. That's what I'm really hoping for. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. Oh, do we have a voicemail? Let me see. Is there a voicemail here? Let's see. We just had two calls from unknown caller. If you want to try back, I'm sorry if something's wrong with the phone lines. Please try to call back. Would love a phone call from you if you're trying to get through, even if it's just to tell me, shut up, you're an asshole. I don't mind that. I'd rather be thought of, when it really comes down to it. Hate away. Give me the love. Fuck you, Phil. Go hug yourself. So we go back to Arya and Syrio, and here we go. Left, right, now you're dead. And Arya gets all into this. You said right, but you went left. And now you're a dead girl, only because you lied. My tongue lied. My eyes shouted the truth. You were not seeing. I was so. I watched. You watched. Watching is not seeing, dead girl. The true seeing is in the heart of swordplay. And I really love this interaction between her and Syrio for many reasons. I love all their interactions in the show and in the books. But in the books, he's a lot harder on her than he is up until this point on the show. Right here, you get to see him really start to lay into her, starting to curve her training into something more serious, teaching her the white man can jump. You can hear Jimmy, but you can't listen to. You can listen to Jimmy, but you can't hear Jimmy. But trying to get her to really understand the concept of looking at the whole picture and realizing you have to find your moments and working her up the training ladder, breaking her down a little bit in a way that, let's say what we want about Arya. I love her, but she is, all the Starks to a certain extent need to be humbled to a point, and Syrio really does a good job of it's hard to say it without sounding, so I'm just gonna say it, Mr. Miyagiing, splintering, like really hammering down, Yodaing her, and really getting to the core. And I hope it's a shame that theoretically their relationship has to end coming up here in a moment. I get double posts. I feel bad. Bye, Syrio. Today is a good day to die. If you're seeing yourself in double posts, I know that's a glitch sometimes in the excellent YouTube, in case anyone's listening, the excellent YouTube chat system that never messes up, ever. So sometimes you see it, but I don't see you getting double posts. Or I'm watching ahead, so it's gonna rewind. Yeah, don't watch too far ahead to see what happens to our famous characters here. So anyways, this was more book serial. He's harsh on her. And also at this point in time, there's no, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, there's no cat story. The scene's broken up because of time. Certain things were probably filmed, but unfortunately, I love him so much. I wish we got more of him. I wish he was even more episodes and in more parts leading up to this. So enter the Lannister soldiers with Meryn fucking Trent, and they want Arya. They want to take her. They go, come with me. Your father wants to see you. And he's like,
Are you men or snakes that you would threaten a child?
Yeah, are you?
You are the daughter of a traitor.
No. Oh, okay. I think we just got our text message. Oh, Joe just finished at the doctor's. He will be here soon. So that's a little update on Joe. So he will be here to gush all over this wonderfulness, and we'll go back and talk a little bit more Serial Pharrell later, because I know Joe's going to want to talk about this. So enter the Lannister soldiers, Meryn fucking Trent. Arya's like, Arya Stark, come with us. Your father wants to see you. And Syrio says what we just heard. They say, mind your place, dancing master. This was so much condescension. It's like heaps and heaps and friggin' mountains and valleys and canyons of condescension here. This is no concern of yours. My father would send you, and I don't have to. And she says, my father wouldn't send you. I don't have to go with you if I don't want to. And this leads right into the point that Syrio was just hammering into her. Look around, understand the whole situation. He immediately knows that these type of guards, this Lannister soldiers, would not come for her. He would never send Lannister soldiers to get Arya. And she's kind of picking up on that here and understanding it. I mean, he makes it pretty obvious for her, but she's also a child and starting to just come to understanding the situation. And the way she I just love when Arya gets all strong, stands up and starts standing up for herself, and watching her climb from where we've already seen her to where she theoretically may go is such an amazing ride. We've talked about this before, but for hiring any kid actors that they've had to do, especially her, she is Arya Stark, and seeing her grow in this character, there's no one on earth that I'm convinced that could play this character as well as her. And it starts right from the beginning here. Really great job, and really well played by her, Syrio Pharrell, and the Lannister soldiers in this moment, in the way that they have absolutely no respect for this guy. We're in armor with our swords and shit, and you're sitting there with the Link wooden sword from the beginning of Legend of Zelda. Be careful, don't go alone without this. And it's that the old man gives him in the cave. He has this freaking wooden sword, and they're just like, oh, fucking, who the fuck does this little dude think he is? Fucking crazy. Sam says there was a bit of Cat, but yeah, I agree. From what I listened to, Arya's training actually sounds pretty cool in the book. Yeah, he's very hard on her in the book, and in a good way, and she loves it. But he's, in the few scenes that we see him with her leading up to this moment, he's playing games with her to a certain extent and having fun with her. We get a little bit that more developed leading into this point, where we just kind of skip away from it and we're coming back to it and seeing as his training starting to become more serious. So she says, I don't have to go with you, which is really fun if you stop and think about the future of both these characters, their interactions right here. You were getting ready. Oh, yeah, we're getting ready for Arya's first kill. Nothing better than stabby Arya. Maisie is so much the heart of her character. She understands every element, and she takes some different takes of where maybe in my imagination, the first time I listened or read certain passages, I imagined it. But everything is so, I sound like such an acting geek. Everything is so justified, and it makes me believe it and feel it. And that's because, again, in her heart, she is Arya Stark. So all these decisions are just made really from Arya, and you can understand and feel them. I'm speaking for Joe, and I know he's going to say this as well when he gets here, because I know it's for him. His favorite part of the show is her arc from beginning to end. It's one of mine. I'm really, really, it's really awesome, her in this first season. And she's one of the things that just, I threaten, I say it a lot, I say this term a lot, steals the show. I just made a video recently where I'm like, I said steals the show like 5,000 times. But Maisie Williams, with everything that's going on, every Arya scene really steals the show for me. And it's just so much fun. So much fun. Yep, to teach her the things about her surroundings. So, are you men snakes that you would threaten a child? Get in my way, little man. I'm Syrio Farrell, you foreign bastard, says one of the guys. And that guy just gets his ass fucking kicked. Like, ridiculously destroyed with a wooden sword and Syrio. And again, I'm only making references for referential purposes and stuff that I've actually read when researching this episode from things George R. R. Martin said. They had to change around some of the stuff from the books where he's like breaking people's noses and fucking people up like a lot because the Lannister soldiers in their costumes wore helmets. So he said that was one of his first tastes of dealing with a television show and having to change things because of that. And he said no major butterflies because of that, as later things George R. R. Martin would talk about butterfly effects. And if you make some change, it changes different things down the line. So Syrio Farrell like fucks this guy up. I mean, like really bad. And Trent starts to almost take him seriously for a second and smiles and goes, kill the Bravosi, bring me the girl. So this is when Syrio gets serious and he goes, Arya, run, child. We're done with dancing for the day. Run to your father, as he just goes into kick-ass mode and takes down like several men, a bunch of all the soldiers except for Trent. And Arya's sitting there watching, again, realizing how easy he's gone on her, how no matter he is really, she's been really hard on, he's been going so easy on her with what he could actually do. It's really fun. And I love that, weird. Sorry, something was going weird with my screen. Sorry to pause. I thought Joe was trying to pop in here for a second. Not yet, everybody. So yeah, so this was really an awesome scene. And I remember the first time I watched this, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, he's dead. He's so dead. Those soldiers are going to rip him apart. And I thought the scene was kind of going to cut right as all the soldiers kind of pummel him. And he just kicks all their asses. You're like, whoa, that's fucking awesome. Look at that. That's kick some fucking. Wow. So then Trant says bloody oaths as he draws his great sword, and Syrio goes, "Be gone, Arya," and she says, "Come with me, run." He says, "The first sword of Braavos does not run," and Trent looks at him like, "I don't run either, motherfucker." And they fight, and he's putting up a good fight. You see that if Syrio Farrell had a sword, he would be able to stop him, and he would be winning this fight. But eventually the wooden sword breaks, and he says, where is it? Yeah, I've got it. Oh my God. What does one say to the God? What does one say to the God of death? Not today, motherfucker. Not today. Oh, here it is. Sorry, folks. Here it is. What does one say?
What do we say to the God of death?
Not today.
And And then this is where it gets weird. This is where it gets weird. It cuts. We don't actually see him get struck down. Trent kind of comes in almost like a Dracula type angle where he just comes up to the camera and just goes dun 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 and covers it up. And then the scene just kind of disappears and we cut to Arya as she's running through the running out the back and going, not today, not today. So, okay, let's pause here. Is Syrio Forel alive or dead? Why did they cut away? We can pause, sort of step out of time here a little bit. There hasn't really been anything in the future to answer this question one way or another. If we're to believe what is in front of our faces, we're to think that he died there. Why not show it? Did they not show it to keep the mystery alive? Maybe. Then why so quickly cast away that theory at times? Oh, he's definitely dead. But the actor kind of is a little tongue-in-cheek about the situation. Both actors are. They've traded barbs back and forth, him and Meryn Trant. We've all heard, or a lot of people have heard most of the theories. He's a faceless man in disguise, and he took over Trant's face. That's one theory that I don't really buy. I don't think Syrio Forel would have ran. Maybe he could have done a parry move and gone the fuck out of there, but he doesn't run, and he made sure he made that point. Did he just wait for Arya to go away so she wouldn't see him run? Or did the show just decide not to show us that so they wouldn't give us that moment of our legendary type character losing for a second and seeing a moment of him losing and getting struck down like that? It's hard to say because this show tends to like to cut away from things, but then they show certain things. It's hard to say. I mean, if I had to put on my Miss Cleo hat and do my thinking, I would say I think he's dead, and this is one of those theories that people are holding on to more than has a lot of weight to it. I want to believe he's alive, but it's hard for me to accept that because I just don't understand the logistics of how he would have got out of that situation. I do want to say that he took down all these men. Is Trant that much better of a fighter than all of these men? I mean, he's probably all right, but is he really much better than all of them? The sword broke. It always pissed me off, and I know it's not his type of sword, that he disarmed all these enemies with the wooden sword, and they all, I mean, I understand they had great swords. He's used to a Bravosian blade, which is much smaller and lighter, so he'd probably be more flexible with the wooden sword, but it always pissed me off that he didn't disarm one of them and just pick up one of their swords. Whatever. We only hear screams, but I'm a Klingon honor type person. Syrio would know it might be his time. Thus, it's his honor. Today is a good day to die. Trent is the one that walked away, says Kaylana. Sam says, I still have faith that he's still alive. Even the Hound, Sam says about Trent being a good fighter. Even the Hound made fun of Meryn Trant as a horrible fighter he is. I mean, that's, again, one of the minor points that kind of get me a little bit. Why am I not hearing the phone ring when it rings? Because we're getting some calls. Again, I saw that you called caller. But for some reason, I am not hearing the phone ring. I guess try one more time, and I'll keep an eye out for it. Sam says, but I still think Syrio's alive because he can't lose to Meryn fucking Trant. There is that, but there's also the other side of that coin to, is that the world we live in here? Is the kind of world we live in Westeros that, yeah, he can. And that's the sad part. When someone like Littlefinger, that seems like such a nice guy, can betray Ned Stark, anything could happen. I mean, it is worth mentioning the fact that maybe it is what it is, that he was a man with a wooden sword with absolutely no armor, nothing on him. I know Bravosi's usually don't fight with armor on to begin with. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the water dancing. They don't fight with armor on. They try to stay as light as possible. Armor slows you down. But still, someone that's just not prepared. And I go to what the Hound says later on, spoiler alert, and someone mentioned in the chat, the best sword of Bravos and he doesn't have a sword. Excuse me. You would think that even with training Arya, someone like him would be the type of guy that would always carry his sword around him at some point, close by, within grabbing distance, like his real sword. So that kind of a couple of things bothered me from the standpoint only because it's like, oh, come on, don't go in there, don't do that. Where you just wish that he had been in a different situation, wish that he had a sword on him, and seeing how that fight actually would have ended with Syrio ready with sword in hand against Trent and all those men. I don't think it would have been close. I think he would have been able to take down all of them. Firecloud, welcome. The Crow and Joe will be with us very soon. Joe was caught up late at a meeting, and they're getting home relatively soon and setting up, and I will invite them in a bit. Great to see you. Glad to see you. Yes, from a Dr. Phil appointment. They went to go see Dr. Phil. Are you guys love? I love you guys. So, just to poll you guys in the chat, which we already kind of did, we want to believe it, but show of hands or people who thinks that Syrio Forel is alive, who think he's dead. If you're watching this at a later date, please share it in the comment section. I personally, if I had a bet on it, like I said, I would bet on dead. I think this is just one of those things like Pine Barrens in The Sopranos with the Russian guy. Spoiler alert for those Sopranos. Sorry if you haven't watched it. And if you have, you'll understand. Or something like at the end of Pale Moonlight, where you're left with this uncomfortable feeling with the way Cisco's talking to the camera. This is just one of those things that they want to leave you with the uncomfortable feeling, leave you with the thought of the what if, more than actually answering those questions. And that tends to be what I think. Keelan, I could not agree with you more. That pissed me off so much. And people's response when I say that, when I asked the thing about the sword, if he was, her question was or comment was, I kept being pissed off that he wouldn't pick up the sword. Every time I bring that up, most people's response to me is, "Oh, don't worry about that. It's because he doesn't use that kind of sword." And I get that. I mean, I understand where you're coming from by that. But again, if it's between life or death and seeing the situation, you would think that out of desperation, even, it's better than carrying a wooden sword. I mean, I guess that's left to the imagination of left to the imagination. I guess that's left to the what if. We're stuck in what if land with that. It's not today. We're not going to get answers to that question today. Not today, folks. Not today. So there seems to be something wrong with the box. So you don't have to see anything under me right now. For those of you that are watching, not listening to the audio cast, that you can find at issuesprogram.com if you want to find the feed. There's nothing below me right now. There's something messed up with that, so I don't have that protection. So you get to see my hands twiddling around. Critch says 90% dead, 5% escaped, 5% in the black cells. Sam says 51% alive. Firecloud says alive and dead. Syrio is Shoedinger cat in the box existence. Oh, I love the chat. Again, as always, the chat is keeping it fun and keeping it awesome. Oh, gosh. Unknown calls. I'm naked. My screen is naked below me. I don't have anything below. Okay, keeping an eye out for Mr. Joe, as he should be coming in rather soon. So we go off to Arya running through the dungeons with the sounds and the sights of Stark death all around her. She says, "Not today, not today." So we cut over to Sansa, and Sansa's being scared as the Hound comes in to grab her. And she says, all scared, "Stay away from me, stay away from me. I'll tell my father." And the Hound's just like, "Fuck you. I don't give a shit about your father." And then she goes, "I'll tell the queen." Wait. Wait. I can say it. "I'll tell the queen." Fuck. The fuck? You'll tell the queen? And he goes, "Who do you think sent me?" Laughing the whole way. He just loves this disorder and loves that this all is fucking happening. He loves when bad stuff happens to good people. It's just something he gets off on. He enjoys. He's one of those people. You grow up in a house with the mountain. You can't help but have a little of that rub off on you. He's a bit nicer of a guy, or he actually is a person. He isn't an animal or force of nature. But he finds this all so goddamn amusing, like hilarious. It's the funniest thing. Oh, what would someone say? Did someone say bongo time? Sorry for that. That bongo break was brought to you by the Issues Program. So I'm in a goofy mood tonight. Very goofy because I'm so excited. But as again, I'm stalling a little bit for time to give Joe a little bit more time to show up. But it's just really exciting. I feel like I've been in the hell of watching some bad television the last couple of days. We're going to be talking tomorrow, if you're watching this live, tomorrow around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. I'm trying to do a bunch of different casts at different times of day so people in different parts of the world can tune in. So we're going to start doing a daytime cast on Friday afternoons that I'm going to do a weekend recap about all the premieres this week. So make sure you check that out if you're around during that time, or check it out on replay and let us know what you thought of trailers that you saw this week. But it's so good to watch Game of Thrones season 1. I can't get over it. It's so much fun. It feels great. I could watch, I think all in all, I look back on it and I change this up a little bit. But for right now, season 1 is my favorite season of Game of Thrones from beginning to end, because it's the season I can watch the most on repeat. I could just continuously watch these episodes and I love them so much. Sam says, "Oh wow, I didn't know you could play the bongos. Very cool." Ren would welcome. And burned, and this burned his face off. What's the German word for loving others? Epic fans. Yes, someone asked me recently. I got a message because they saw me play the bongos a couple of times in videos, and they asked for a drum solo video. So I think I'll do that. Why not? I'll do that. I'll probably be a short video. Or maybe I will. I'll put some video of Stephanie or me playing Mario Maker and just play bongos to it or some crap like that. So thank you everybody for your kind words about the bongo playing here and there. I will make a drum solo video for you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that, Bob Driscoll, or whatever the fuck your name was, motherfucker. 599-7483. Your phone number? No, I'm kidding. I'm making up the number part. It is, and I don't want to live in the past because I love a lot of episodes that happened in Game of Thrones in season 5. Season 4 is very close for me to season 1 for my enjoyment factor. Love season 2 as well. It's just going back to these episodes after watching season 5, and then after watching some poor things leading up to this time period, as I believe Kaylana was implying. Phil, could you need a shower. You need to shower yourself with some good Game of Thrones. So here we are. So off to Arya finding her sword. Nothing is better than this moment in this episode. This is one of my favorite moments in the episode, and it's interesting how it all comes together and how her reaction to this is. So let's get into this. So Arya goes and she runs through and she looks to find Needle, and she's trying to find Needle. She's looking everywhere and she finally finds Needle, and some fucking little dick comes up behind her and thinks he's gonna fuck with Arya, but she don't play like that. He's like, "Oh, what do you want? I want you, wolf girl. And come here," and tries to grab her, and she says, "Leave me be," and turns around, and she does not even hesitate. You could say she did it by accident, but I don't know so much. The look on her face, I think, was more surprise on how it felt after she did it, because she probably actually felt bad for a half a second looking in his face. But as she turned around and she stabs this kid, you got to think I feel like some part of her enjoyed that and maybe fell into a little bit of a calling. It's sick. It's sick, this little sick girl. Stabbed him, right? Bam, dead. And the kid just bleeds out of the ground, poking him full of holes. She knows which end is the goddamn pointy end. Farquaad says, how could the book readers enjoy season 1 knowing what was to come? Good point in the sense. It's a bigger point that you could talk about spoilers in general and knowing where a story is going to end. Does that make watching the story as enjoyable? And I would say it depends on the certain thing. I bet if the show had not been done well, if it was horribly put together and kind of extra insulting to the source material, people would have had more problem. People would have acted a little bit more out there about watching it and would have been a little bit more, I'm not going through this again, just to go through it for the shock value of it all. I think also some people that were watching it or that had read it and were watching it with others that they knew that hadn't read the books were looking forward to those shock moments. Those were the people holding cameras on people in certain parts of the show that maybe we haven't gotten to yet, seeing people's reactions. It was the people that had read the books and knew what was coming and were preparing their friends for it and wanting to see their reactions. I think that probably had a lot to do with it as well. Misery loves company, and you want to bring others into your mess. Or she doesn't. Or does she like stabbing fat boys? I don't like fat, says Arya. Bass Lindu. After that Arya scene, I feel like rewatching season 5, episode 10. I agree. And that's what I was kind of hinting at too. Again, we gave our very vague spoiler warning, so we can be vague about things that happen in the future. Maybe we're not going to say specific things, but that's why I really loved that scene with her and Trant at the beginning, where with what she says to him, where she's just like, "I'm not going with you," and her interactions with him right there, because it does come full circle in some fashion. And that's a lot of bloody fun. And then it's like, it's murderer's row of scenes in this episode as we go to a really great fucking scene with Varys and Ned in the black cells. We don't really get, just for book people, we don't get really too into or at all into Ned's dreams that he had in the cells in the book, but we also don't get into one other thing about Varys, and Varys in the books describes actually works, or it doesn't work. He's a master of disguise. It's something that they don't really get into too much in the show. They hint at it, but it's never fully developed. He disguises himself as a turnkey, as someone as a guard in the prison cells. For years, he does it. And when he doesn't even really care about seeing anybody, he does it just so on the occasion that he might need to talk to someone in the black cells, he's in a position to do so. And here's where it all comes to fruition. And I get why you don't, that's hard to show in the first season when someone like him is kind of like a side mystery character, but it's something that gets explained more in detail because in the books that's worth mentioning because it's fun. More details to the world. I feel like that exists in this world too. We just didn't get told because we didn't have time to see that because everything's mainlined on a television show. I love you guys in the chat so goddamn much. Thank you so much for making my time here talking to you all the more fun. It's just great to have so many. I say this a lot, but I say it a lot in comments, and I just want you to know how genuine it is. It's so great to make so many new friends and get to talk to you guys throughout the week about all these shows and all these past shows. It makes it so much fun, and we're just gonna keep doing this, like I said, out here a lot more often from now for the extended future right now because of many factors in my life that have changed, and I don't have much to do right now as I search for unemployed, looking for a new job and all that sort of stuff, having been separated or quitting / being fired from my job. Maybe I'll do a life podcast at some point later, not the game of life. Anyways, so he's in there for curiosity. It seems like he's there just for curiosity to understand what the fuck Ned was thinking. And he's there also with some water. And in a way, in this scene, kind of bitch slaps Ned all over the place. And I just love this scene so much. I love watching Varys mentally bitch slap Ned and give him the "I told you so." What the fuck were you? What the angry video game nerd? What were you thinking? Almost straight out. And also in this episode, really does an excellent job from this scene to the next scene that we see Varys in the Cersei, Littlefinger, Pycelle, Sansa interrogation scene. The different voices and different attacks, the way he says things, the way his phrasing even. Varys really is so calculating and so different, has just a different agenda and different way he talks to every single person. It's so fun to watch. Varys likely has one of those red palm mouthpieces. Love Varys's dungeon stooge outfit for visiting the Black Cell prisoners. His outfit for Gimpy. Oh my God. Too funny. Okay, I'm going to send out our invite to Joe right now, and I'm going to turn down his volume. So in case he pops in here, we're not going to hear him going like this as he's setting up his table. So let's keep an eye out for Mr. Joe to pop in the room. Pop out, popping. So where the fuck were we? Where the fuck were we with this shit? Tell me where were we? Shut this off. No overlay selected. I know. I understand. You suck. Fucking Google Hangout right now. Google Hangout's being a bitch right now, folks. So he offers Ned some water, and Ned is apprehensive at first and says, "I promise you it is not poison." And I can't say it enough how much I just love Varys in this scene. Why is it that no one ever trusts the eunuch as he drinks the water to show him? But he could just build up a tolerance to the lidocaine powder that you put in there. That is possible. It isn't inconceivable. That's not inconceivable. It could actually happen. Anybody need a peanut? So not so much, my lord. But I would say Ned goes to drink it, and he tries to advise him not to drink so much. And he says, "I would save the rest if I were you. Men have been known to die of thirst in these cells." And Ned, who just unfortunately is in just such a shit situation, as we're going to find out as this scene gets dictated a little bit, he's shit out of luck here for so many ways. Not to mention, he's just in the same position his brother was many years ago in the cells. Just somewhere he probably in his life never wanted to be and never thought he would be, especially with everything he's been through with Robert and thinking that Robert was king, or with Robert as king. And once Robert became king, he's just like, oh, okay, everything's going to be okay. Even if I disagree with Robert, he's never going to put me in this position. We have a king that might be a big blowharded dumbass in some ways, but I love him and he loves me, and I'm sort of protected and can talk and say what I want in some ways, and what happened to my brother and my father will never happen to me. I mean, I still am holding out hope that Ned's going to be safe. I really can't see this show getting a actor like Sean Bean and not using him more past this first season. And so I really do think maybe Ned will be in the dungeons for a long time, and we'll just keep going back to him through the seasons. And then maybe somewhere down the line, like in season 4 or 5 or something, he'll get out of prison and then be a big part of the story again. He's just such an important force. I just don't see the show being without him in any level. How could it work? How could it do it? How could they do such a thing? Funny, Varys doesn't look Sicilian. All his own making, unlike his father and his brother, says Renwood. Very good point. And that is really, Ren, great to see you. That is one of the most important points to bring that, why Varys is even having this talk with him. And I understand we get into this again a little bit more in the books about Varys. Ned goes in there with the preconceived notion not to trust Varys and not Littlefinger as well, but Catelyn really kind of gets to him a little bit, and he's like, okay, he really believes that Littlefinger is going to serve his best interest at some point in time. And it's just stupid. And like talking to Cersei the way he did in the last episode, getting in her face like that, stupid. We lost our shit at Ned Stark in the last recap of episode 7. I believe we called him stupid for probably 20 minutes straight. And I'm almost glad, I'm gladdened by the fact that Ned realizes it here at the end. He actually you see that he actually comes to grips with the fact that he knows he fucked up bad, and there's nothing he can do about it. Firecloud says, who is bigger, the mountain or that giant in The Princess Bride? Andre the Giant? I think someone can correct me. I would believe that Andre weighs more, but the mountain is taller when it really comes down to it. I think Andre the Giant was not just a big, and I don't know if you mean the actor that plays the mountain or the mountain's character. If we're going character to character, I think the Princess Bride giant would be considered bigger. If we're going real, like the actor that plays the mountain now versus Andre the Giant weighed more. Like he was huge. He was like really like fat in his later life. He got, but I think he was like 7'1" or 7'2". I'm not sure how big the current mountain is. I think he's close to that. I think he's maybe 6'11", but he's like jacked. When Varys implied back Lancel might impel drugged wine for Robert to Ned, let him know Cersei was in on it. Let Ned know that Cersei was in on that. Oh my God, the way he talked to Cersei, that was the biggest mistake he ever could have made. Don't make me go off on that rant against this, Sam. Kaelin says, please stop the intentional misdirection about future intentions. Sam says, what intentional misdirection? I accept both of your responses, and I'll do my best to not be so obvious with my intentional misrepresentations. Eric Awesome said it would be too much of a cliche to have Sean Bean die. Farcon says innocent people usually have a blind side with evil. With evil. Oh, evil. Why am I not getting any of the calls? This is not fun. I'm calling. Here we go. I want to try something. Folks, bear with me here for a second. Let me try to refresh this page. I see that we've gotten some calls. I keep seeing it, but for some reason I'm not hearing the phone ring. It's not ringing on me here. And I highly apologize because I fucking love it. The current mountain, boo for recast. Innocent people usually have a blind side with evil, as Farquaad said before. So Ned inquires about his daughters. And Varys says, the youngest one have escaped the castle. Even my little birds cannot find her. And Sansa, still engaged to Joffrey. Cersei will keep her close. The rest of your household, though, is dead. It grieves me to say. I hate the sight of blood, as he says. And Ned, continuing to be somewhat of a dumbass, says, you watched my men being slaughtered and you did nothing. You did nothing? Why? I mean, come on. And Varys makes a very good point.
When you look at me, do you see a hero?
And no, fair. Like Varys, did Ned really say that? He probably just said that without thinking, because he couldn't really realistically expect Varys to step up in that situation and try to help him out. Come on. You're not that dense. I mean, I understand you're grasping for straws right there, but if you blame any of this on anybody but yourself. And Catelyn, maybe. Maybe Catelyn. Let's see, we got some texts. We got some texty texts. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great to be back talking about Game of Thrones as well. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Oh my God. 6'9". Halapor Julius Beyonson. He stands 6'9" tall. Holy shit, that's huge. Okay, yes. Blah, blah, blah. Phone. It's so hard. You're doing a good job, though. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we know Ned ain't going to live to season 4 and 5, but Phil keeps saying he wishes when he's seen all the seasons. It's a joke not to spoil the opposite's cruel. Okay, fair enough, Gayletta. Sorry about that. I love Kaylana so much. She keeps me honest here. Keeps me in line. Oh gosh, I love you guys. I love you guys lots. Okay, let's try one more time for that. So you watched my men being slaughtered, and I wrote, really, Ned? He was gonna help you out here. I don't think so. And you did nothing. Yep. And I would again, my lord. I was unarmed and surrounded by Lannister swords. When you look at me, do you see a hero? And I'm sorry. I said it a few times, but I'm sorry. Ned's got to be smart enough in this situation to understand that Varys basically did all he could. And he tried to help him. And I think I also want to mention that something I was wondering, did Varys, towards a couple of episodes ago when Arya was in the dungeons and could hear him and Ilario talking, they talk about, yeah, we can't kill this hand. It's not the same as the old hand. So it seems like Varys from the beginning really wanted Ned to stay alive and maybe had some sort of plan that Ned was a part of. It's interesting just to note that I think Varys from the beginning, Ned dying wasn't fitting into his plans, or Ned being thrown into a dungeon wasn't fitting into his plans. So he says, I was unarmed for Lannister swords. Come on. When you look at me, do you see a hero? And then he asks him the $25,000 question. What madness led you to tell the queen you learned about the truth about Joffrey's birth? What fucking madness? What fresh hell is this? Andre, 7'4", 240 pounds. Holy shit. So I guess Andre the Giant wins that equation. Thank you so much for our wonderful, amazing fact checker, Ren Renwood. Holy fucking shit. Fun to watch. I saw a documentary on powerlifters about the current mountain who's one of the world's strongest men. I think in a different world, I love Hodor as Hodor, but I think if Game of Thrones had been on in a different magic time period, Andre the Giant probably would have been one of the people up for the part of Hodor. And then we could have had the true face-off between the two of them. I would have loved it. I love you. Who is Tim Daly? Oh, someone's asking me a question about The Sopranos. Who is Tim Daly on The Sopranos? That's a question for a different show, but I will answer you. Tim Daly on The Sopranos, I believe, was Danny Scatoni or something like that was his name. Whatever. Sorry. Sorry, stupid question. Why are you asking me about that Game of Thrones show, viewer? Screwing me up. I'm like a little cat. I can't read a line and not go off on a stupid rant about it. Oh, they say because I mentioned The Sopranos tonight. Fair enough. Kaylana says, just for shits and giggles, we could back up and run through the start with Joe and Crow. I like their comments too. Fun. I'll make sure I let them comment about what happened. If you notice, we're moving even extra slow than we usually do, so we haven't really got to too much of the heart of the episode. I just invited Joe again. He had said he was just finishing at 7:00. So he should be home any minute now, and him and Katie are probably setting up and preparing, and he's cooling off from his rage at the doctors. So and yeah, Varys says, yeah, I would fuck you over again, buddy. No, I would not do anything again. And Ned's reaction to what madness led him to tell the queen he learned the truth about Joffrey's birth, the madness of mercy. Mercy. That she might save the children. The children! Why can't somebody think of the goddamn children? As Varys gets in, it's always the innocents who suffer. It always is. Always the innocents who suffer. And if it wasn't the wine that killed Robert, nor the boar, the wine slowed him. And the boar gutted him. They finished the job. But really, you know what? Tim Daly, that played Superman, I believe. Did Tim Daly, the guy who played, did he play Batman voice actor or just the animated series? I believe he played, Superman in some of the Superman animated series episodes. Yes, exactly. We wouldn't want Joe to come in on a rage. That's not my goal. As I give him softball points that I know my best friend well enough to know that he's going to go off in a blind rage during other shows casts. Joe's very calm during the Game of Thrones casts. Or well, season one ones. Anyways. So yeah, the fucking children. It's always the innocents who suffer. It wasn't the wine that killed Robert nor the boar. The wine slowed him down. The boar ripped him open. But it was your mercy that killed the king. Cersei's plan got pushed forward because of that warning. Again, that's something that's in the book. They don't really need to explain it in the show. She sent someone back and forth that kind of the plan got pushed ahead because of everything that Ned did. And Ned gave her sort of like a time clock on it too. And that's just idiot. So Ned gets this huge motherfucking smile. The queen can't kill me, bitch. Cat holds her brother. The wrong brother, sadly, and she lost her, and he lost him. Your wife has let the imp slip through your fingers, and Ned's face is so fucking hilarious. It's like, smile. She's got the imp. If that's truth, can you just kill me right now, and be done with it? And Varys is like, not today, buddy. Not today. You're not getting off that easy for your stupidity. You're going to have to suffer for this for a while. The realm. And then he asks Varys the important question. Varys, who do you truly serve? And he says, the realm. Someone must, my lord, which is very interesting. And you know what? I believe it to a certain extent. I believe that Varys serves the realm, or what he thinks should be the realm, or his opinion of the whole situation. Do you think, and that's a good question for you guys in the chat, do you think, from what we know of Varys, from now on, does Varys truly serve the realm, or does he serve his own agenda of what he thinks is best for the realm? Which may be the same thing. I think the ultimate difference in my mind between him and Littlefinger is different methods in some ways, similar methods in others, but I think when it really comes down to it, Varys is thinking about it from a more empathetic standpoint of trying to think about as a whole what's better, maybe from his narrow perspective, where Littlefinger is going for his own personal gain. That's all he cares about. That is all Littlefinger gives a dog shit poo poo about. Sam, Ned, I can't remember. Just generic conversation, not a spoiler. I know. We're all kidding. Munching food real fast, Joe and Crow. Ned is classic. Good guy at the beginning of the war. He dies, wondering why no one else is following his rules. Good point. Well, I'm getting textaholic. Well, lots of stuff, lots of questions about voice actors. So we'll get back to that later at a different show. That is for a different show. As I'll invite Joe one more time. I keep inviting him, so eventually you're going to see that little face pop up on the camera below us. As we cut over to the wall and Mormont talking to the guys, checking out a couple of dead bodies that were found on the hunt. And they see that it's a couple of men that they knew. It's Otter or Other or something, without a doubt. And the other guy is Jaffer Flowers or something like that are the guys' names. And yeah. And John asks about if you've seen Benjen. We get another Benjen mention here. And these guys have seemingly been dead for a while. And this is where Sam starts to develop himself a little bit. Sam says, the smell. And Mormont's like, what are you talking about, the smell? And Sam's like, well, if these dudes have been dead for a long time, wouldn't there be rot? To which John responds, we should burn them. And I believe it's Bowen Marsh, but I'm not positive, says, snow's not wrong, my lord. Fire will do for them the wildling way. What I want to know is how John knows that at that point right there to burn them. Old Nan? Is he remembering an old Nan story where that's the only way to get rid of the whites, the undead? I'm guessing that's where it comes from. Was John allowed to get old Nan's stories, or was he never allowed in the house? It's a question I don't know the answer to. Oh, we're getting Star Trek reviews, Farcloud. That's happening. That is fucking happening. Renderman says, I got to put my little chickens to bed. I'll be back. Critch says, at this time, I thought Varys was telling the truth. Obviously, he's a plotter and no one to trust in a bad situation. Sam Carter says, voice actors for what? My cousin was asking me some voice acting questions. Sam says, and by the way, does anyone know how to stop the double message glitch? Because it's happening to me 4 or 5 times in the chat already. Refresh the page. It'll probably work. You may have to refresh the page a couple times. I mean, it may start again. For whatever it's worth, because they're doing a lot of upgrading and trying to get some more gaming into YouTube and steal people from Twitch, they fucked with the system a little bit, so things are moving weird, and they're constantly updating the chat and everything. So everything's real glitchy right now, and it needs to settle. YouTube is like goes through glitchy phases and like these peaks and valleys. So right now we're in a glitchy phase. Not everyone. Sam says, I truly don't know what is Mormont's Raven. I don't see your double poos. All the Northern kids know the rules. Okay, so thank you, Critch. All the Northern kids inherently know the rule to make sure you burn any dead men. And I guess John's a little bit more aware of everything that's going on too, because if we think about how the whole series started with John seeing Ned behead that guy that was very, very seriously considering and thinking that talking about White Walkers like they really exist. And as we saw, they do, thanks to his situation. Multitasking, just a lot of doing multitask. Trying to find Joe and get him in here. Da 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 da. Okay, just sent Joe another message to try to get him in here. So Sam says, he says to Sam, Mormont gives Sam the closest thing to a compliment he's ever gotten his whole life. You may be a coward, Tarly, but you're not stupid. And this is a very important moment for Sam and for Mormont, discovering that's on the show and how this is all is depicted here, discovering that Sam isn't useless, that Sam does have a purpose and where he can be beneficial to him. Reading, understanding things that normal men would not know. Kaylana says, we don't know how bad Catelyn was treating Jon. She did put him out in the kennels, or something. Yeah, she put him out in the kennel. She wouldn't let him come in the house when the king was there. She was real mean to him when he went to go visit Bran before he left for before he left for the Wall. And there's been a couple times where we've seen her talking to Ned and telling Ned that Jon can't stay with her. So we've seen that she probably doesn't hold her tongue. She doesn't seem like the type of person to me that's going to hold her tongue and pretend to care about Jon. That being said, I'm pretty sure old Ned's connected to the Starks and would protect and would do whatever Ned said. So Ned would probably make sure that Jon was taken care of by old Nan as well. Would be my guess. Sam says, as I was listening to the audiobook, I was shocked to see how badly he was treated. Yeah, exactly. They just don't show that as much because they don't show you as much in the early part leading up to Winterfell, whereas a big part of the first book is learning how the interworkings of that family interact. We kind of flash through a lot of moments in the first season, which is great because you understand, again, for television, they show you just enough to make you fall in line with the story, and in television, sometimes less is more. People can say that they would want every scene dictated in the show on screen, but then there'd be a lot of staring at food and describing food. Then the pies, and you should have seen the stacks of pies. There were pies for miles, and Sansa never saw pies like this before, and she loved the pies, and she ate the pies. As she saw the pie, she knew her pie was tasty, and she ran over her other pie and danced with the pie and danced with the devil pile by the pale moon pie. So, you may be a coward, Tarly, but you're not stupid. Lord Commander Maester Aemon, the crow comes in, and Aemon awaits you in chamber. Some guy tells Mormont that Aemon is in his chamber waiting for him, that a raven came from King's Landing. So Jon and Mormont, it's a scene with Jon and Mormont tries to get Jon to drink. And I think this is funny, just worth mentioning from later in the episode that we'll get to a scene that with Tywin and Tyrion, where in this scene, Mormont keeps trying to get Jon to drink. And in that scene, Tywin just makes sure that Tyrion cannot drink. And he plays a game of keep away from Tyrion with the booze, which I guess was an improv by Charles Dance, which is an interesting to mention. So Jon and Mormont, he's trying to get a drink and bring me a horn of ale, Snow, and pour one for yourself. There's just a long pause, and Jon goes, is there any word of my father? And he goes, sit. And he goes, no, sit. It's just one of those like sit. No, don't fucking talk to me. Sit the fuck down right now. And Lord Stark has been charged with treason. And Jon just this whole time is like, what the fuck? You almost forget, and it makes you... This isn't a bad thing. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. Certain actors just get better over time. And I think Kit Harington has got to be better actor over time. At the beginning, Jon's very much a lot of one note. And I think he, as an actor, just understands the character a lot more where we're at now in season 5 than he did back here. And that's not to say I don't like Jon in this scene or I don't understand his feeling, but he seems very, in threat to use a weird word, he seems very visceral in everything here, like very visual. Everything you see, I'm angry. He just develops much more as an actor. You can see that, and maybe it's knowing a little bit of this actual situation where he's someone that just came right out of theater school basically and got hired on the show, that he learns you see him learning to act over the course of the first few seasons. And I think he really becomes great by the last season, and seeing the storyline, some of the stuff that they did with him in this past season is my favorite Jon stuff yet. And I love the work that he's doing. I just think at the beginning, he wasn't my favorite character right from get-go. And I was like, oh, and he'd be a little like, especially what? Any word of my father? I don't know. I just was a little put off by Jon at first. I was like, dude. And I mean, you understand he's had it hard, but again, I feel like they didn't do enough of justice to show you how hard the bastard really has it. And how he feels when getting to the wall. They made him going to the wall something he really felt honor about and all this sort of stuff. And they sort of come to grips with it when he's talking to Tyrion, where he's like, my father knew what this place was. But there's a lot more of that and a lot more of his understanding of why he's being sent there. I don't know. That's just a little opinion that I have. Little incorrect opinion. Kaylana says, Rob, even Theon act all bro and happy. So I thought outside of Catelyn's bitch face him, Jon was the older brother, fine for the younger kids. Everyone loves pie. I think what it was, and I think you're right about that except for Catelyn and Sansa, everyone in Theon, but who gives a shit about Theon? Everybody, the rest of the family probably all treated him normal. And everyone else around there probably treated him normal. And like everybody else. But Sansa probably didn't say 3 words to him her whole life. And Catelyn just acted like, put Catelyn bitch face on. Catelyn bitch face. The new cologne by Catelyn bitch face. Come on, buddy. Come on in. Now I don't know. Now I'm worried that Joe got into a car accident on the way home or something. He was on the way home an hour ago. And then I know where he was. It's not an hour away. Perhaps he's having computer problems. So anyways, we're going to continue. We're going to continue along this thing. If we have to do this, just us and you guys, us together, we'll do this. And then we'll all make fun of Joe later and tell him how much we love him and miss him. So this was the moody Jon face time. Yeah, really, it was. It was total moody Jon face. Well, he was a teenager, so he's going through the moody goth rebellious teen stage, says Sam. As bad as she was, they whitewashed Kat's deeds. Exactly. They did. They didn't show you how bad she actually was. How bad that bitch actually was. Fucking Kat. He saw my little thing, motherfucker. Get on in here. If you're watching, get on in here, motherfucker. So Lord Stark has been, so there's a long part, one of my father, and he says, Lord Stark has been charged with treason. And John's like, what the fuck? Well, he didn't say it like that. He has a very deep voice. What the fuck? They say he conspired with Robert's brothers to deny the throne to Prince Joffrey. And John takes the letter and reads. He's like, I can read, motherfucker. Give me that. And Mormont says to him, I hope you're not thinking of doing anything stupid. Your duty lies here. And he says, my sisters were in King's Landing too. And Mormont, with the most unconvincing straight face, like, yeah, they're dead, bro. Says, I'm sure they'll be treated gently. Sure, they will. Everybody in the Seven Kingdoms knows the story of what happened to that what the mountain did to Elia Martell and her kids. We all know. We all know what happened. There's no hiding, bitch. Kaylana says, I'm used to Aidan Turner, and some actors can put flavor to their portrayal, even moody characters, unless the director told Kit to have no facial expressions or body language unless it's obvious. And I think maybe at this point he just didn't know. Like, Kit, could you probably be a little less wooden? Is that possible? Could you do it? And he did it. Fair enough. I think he really gets better. He gets a lot better. Someone like Arya, Maisie Williams, is great from the beginning, and I think she's great right up until time. Like, she starts, goes all the way through, amazing. Someone like Kit Harington and the actor that plays Sam, who both were coming out of acting school at the time when they signed on the show. It took them a few years, but now that they're going, they're really great. And, you know, at the beginning, you know, it's hard. I mean, you're thrown into this big thing and filming the show, and you have directors and people yelling at you, and Kit seems to be a little doof. No. So to probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode, one of my favorite scenes in Game of Thrones ever. To Pycelle, Varys, Littlefinger, and Cersei conditioning Sansa and setting her up. And just the look on Cersei's face in this entire scene is unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's so funny. It's so funny. I love this shit.
The rumors of your demise were unfounded.
Well, sorry.
Disappoint you.
Well, I jumped the gun. I was expecting, just a little inside baseball, I was expecting having time where Joe is talking to set up the right clip. So now I'm like clicking on the wrong clips. So we'll get back to clips next episode. So we go to Pycelle and Varys and Littlefinger, and this just scene is like 1,000 levels of awesome sauce. The look on Cersei's face is just impeccably entertaining. Hearing Varys talk out the other side of his ass, that you saw a different side of Varys when he was talking to Ned, and then seeing this Varys, it's just great. Littlefinger is perfect the way he's observing everything and jumping in and subtly trying to just watching and making his plan, waiting to strike and figure out what his next step is. There's KY Jelly. He had a good training, hiding his feeling with the cat bastard, shaming him his whole life. So Varys starts in, your father has proved to be an awful traitor, dear. And then Pycelle, King Robert's body was still warm when Lord Eddard began plotting to steal the throne from him. And Sansa is just so cute in this scene. He wouldn't do that. He knows how much I love Joffrey. He wouldn't, please, your grace. It's been a big mistake. Send for my father. He'll tell you the king was his friend. He'll tell, come on, please. And again, they just flash on Littlefinger's face this whole time. It's just this smug little funny look on his face. It's freaking hilarious. I love it. Ooh, we got Pete Weinstein messaging me too. What the hell? What's going on here? Oh, okay. I'm seeing. I'm in a group text. So I'm getting messages from lots of different people. It's not just people viewing the show. Okay. Those are two separate texts. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, Pete. I know you'll be watching the show later. Sorry that your boy Kurt Sutter's show sucks there. Fucking bastard execution fuck. Kaylana says Littlefinger's during Sansa's interrogation scene shows his first sign he's trying to help her. Absolutely. I agree with that. So, excuse me again. So, Sansa, sweetie. Send for my father. He'll tell you the king was his friend. So Cersei says, Sansa, sweetling, you're innocent of any wrongdoings. We know this, but yet you're the daughter of a traitor. How can I allow you to marry my son? To which Pyzel, so hateful, says a child born of traitor seed is no fit consort for our king. She is a sweet thing now, your grace, but in 10 years, who knows what treason she may hatch. Which leads into probably the funniest moment of the entire episode, and up until this point, one of the funniest moments of the series to be this whole interaction. How can I allow you to marry my son? And she goes, no, I'm not. I'll be a good wife to him. You'll see. I'll be a queen, a good queen. I won't hatch anything. I'll be a queen just like you. And the look on Cersei's face, like, just like me, it scares her for a second. She's like taken aback. She's like, wait, just like me? Whoa. Stop that shit. But she doesn't, and I think she's amazed at how innocent this girl is and how naive she is to think, even to this point, that Cersei is on her side. Oh my God. Joffrey takes time to listen to her at least. Yep. And her sweet words have moved him. Hopefully she just stays moved. Kurt says, yep, Joffrey seems to have learned something from this humiliation. Maybe he'll be a better king than we think. Kaylana says, and Cersei's cynical, droll look of her dumb innocent was hilarious. This whole scene, I can't say it enough, how many levels of awesomeness, of hilarity, and seriousness that it's come in this moment. And just reading through the scene and reading through the lines. As Kaylana pointed out, you get the first glimpse of how Littlefinger really cares about her and is trying to make this work. Excuse me. Or looking on with wonder and care upon her. Excuse me. You see Varys really trying to be clandestine, but like doing it, but trying to protect her as well, and certain things he's saying here. And again, our second funniest moment in the scene is with Littlefinger when we get into this whole thing. So let's get to it. Best if you help your father. Little dove, you must write Lady Catelyn a letter. Littlefinger says, the girl's innocent, your grace. She should be given a chance to prove her loyalty, is what Littlefinger says here. And Cersei says, little dove, you must write to Lady Catelyn and your brother, the eldest. What the fuck's his name? I don't really care. Robb. Yeah, Robb. Word of your father's arrest will come to him soon, no doubt. But best it come from you. If you tell them, help your father, urge your brother to help keep the king's peace. Tell him to come to King's Landing, swear fealty to Joffrey, and all will be good. Sansa, who has a rare moment of thought here. Doesn't last long, but she has a rare moment of thought. If I could only see my father and talk to him about this, because this kind of seems a little weird. Littlefinger just gives her this cut it out look, like, shut up. And Cersei goes, you disappoint me, child. We have been told of your father's treason. Why would you want to speak to a goddamn fucking traitor? And she goes, I only meant what would happen to him. And Cersei says, that depends on what? On your brother and on you. We go to a little bit of into the second half of the episode where we get into everybody getting the letter and their responses to what happens post this letter. So, yeah, just like Cersei thinking the bitch will be evil soon. She's transferring that onto Sansa. She's thinking, oh, okay, come on. If Sansa's, everybody wants to be evil like me. No one can be queen and actually be a good person. That shit is impossible. Not gonna happen ever. So, okay, so we cut to everyone getting the letter. So the first place that we stop off and is in not King's Landing, is up to Winterfell, where Robb, Master Lewin, and Theon are sitting around reading the letter. And Theon doesn't really talk at first here, but let's see. We got, you are in a video call with Joe. Wait, is Joe in here? Did Joe step in? It says I'm in a video call with Joe, but I don't see him in here. Let's see. It says Joe has joined the video call for a second. Did anyone see Joe pop in there? No, I didn't. God damn it. You're lying to me, motherfucker. As it gets all their audio and video from my broadcast. No. Broadcast a large video so you feed my feed. Yes. Try again, Joe. Come on in, buddy. Do you think Arya would have written the letter, asked Ren Renwood. I agree with everything that Kaylana said. Hell no, Arya would be room house bound. Yeah. Arya would say fuck no and be out of there in 2 seconds flat. I bet. Let's see. Okay, I got it. Oh my God, I understand. I've got it. What is going on here? You okay? Take me there already. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out what madness is going on here. I don't know if they're not letting Joe jump in the call for some reason. So we cut to Robb, Master Lewin, and Theon. Robb is the heart and balls of Ned. He is the heart of Ned, but the balls and sort of the wise assery of Catelyn, which isn't necessarily, well, it seems like he's truly both of their sons. We'll say that. Joe's having a shadow baby. Joe's in the dark right here. He's like, I am here. Are you, can we hear you, Joe? Are you there? No. Okay. No, fuck no. I heard a fuck no. Phil, I'm going to stab you in the back of the head. What the fuck? This isn't fair, motherfucker. Too funny. Okay, so they're reading the letter and stuff, and they say treason. Yep, and Sansa wrote this. He asks, "It's your sister's hand with the queen's words. You're summoned to King's Landing to swear fealty to the new king." And Robb says, "Joffrey put my father in chains, and now he wants his ass kicked. This is a royal command, my lord, and if you refuse," and Robb says, "I won't refuse. His Grace wants me to go to King's Landing. I'm going to go to fucking King's Landing, but I'm not going alone. Send me the banners. Get me the banners. Call in the motherfucking banners." And Lewin says, "All of them?" And he goes, "Yes, my lord. They've all sworn fealty to my father. Have they not?" And I got to say, Lewin looks so goddamn proud of Robb here. He is so happy. He's like, my little baby, my son, or my surrogate son. And you got to feel really good for Lewin that he's in this kind of position. I don't know. I'm going to try something here, guys. If I get disconnected, let's see. Take me there. Let's go. Let's go if that works. I don't think so, because if Joe was having a real problem getting in, he would let me know. And we've come this far. We can't end now. I can't stop it. I can't fucking stop it. We can't stop this ship now. But I am so proud of Robb, and I think he is super proud of Lewin. I know Joe's been having some problems with his computers too, so it's probably he's having trouble connecting to the call. A couple of times we've been late recently. It's because we've been having trouble connecting. Me and Joe are fighting now. He hates me. He's like, fuck that, Phil. But I will tell you one thing: being alone, it's harder to play the Phil's recap and review drinking game when I go off camera for a second. 2-hour post before. Yeah, he's my favorite of the Starks. I'm so proud of Rob. I am really proud of Rob. Joe, if you can hear this, if you happen to just be watching this, call in 781-990-8509 and we can at least get you on the phone line. So if you're watching this right now, Joe, and you're having trouble getting into the call, like your computer's not connecting or something, call the phone line. We can get you in that way. So His Grace summoned me to King's Landing. I'm going to go. Llewyn looks so fucking proud. Theon talks to Rob, and I wrote, I also like Theon here. I like what Theon says here and his implication that he is just that he says to him, listen, are you afraid? And he goes, I must be, as we see his hand shaking. And he goes, why is that? And Theon says, that's good. He goes, why is that good? It means you're not stupid. And if anybody knows stupid, it's Theon. I mean, end it, invite, and start over with us. Only 15 minutes in. I guess I could try to do that. If when Joe messages me, I can do that. I can start over and then download both and then repost it all as one video. But I'm going to finish, and what I'll do if Joe doesn't join us at all, we will just have 2 recaps of this show, one a shorter one, or before the next episode on episode 9 when we come back to do 9. I'll let Joe and Kate do a little bit of a recap of this episode and their thoughts of this episode before we get into 9 on the next one. We've done stuff like that before. So yeah, we'll make sure that somewhere in these we get Joe and Kate's thoughts on this episode. So we go to the Eyrie and Lysa and Catelyn and lots of crows. And I gotta say, as batshit crazy as Lysa is, she's very good. The actress plays this character very well, and I enjoy her scenes because she's so ridiculously over the top. It's hilarious. And this scene is one of my favorite Lysa scenes because you just see the many layers of her mind and how she shifts and stuff. Catelyn's yelling at Lysa with their kid on her lap. Sweet Robin. Amazing performances by all 3. Catelyn for her anger and frustration. Lysa for her measured insanity. And Sweet Robin for just being Sweet Robin. Catelyn's pissed off. You've had this since day one. She grabs the letter about, who knows how long it's been, but the letter about what happened to Ned in the whole situation. Or Sansa's letter, I assume. He sent it to me, not to you. I've only showed it out you as a courtesy, she said. Lysa says, nice and calm. And Catelyn, who's freaking out, and there's nothing worse to arguing with someone that's so measuredly calm when you're freaking the fuck out. And she says, a courtesy? Your husband has been taken prisoner. My son intends to declare war. What the fuck? A war? Your son against the Lannisters? You should go teach him patience, she says. Lysa says. Ned rots in the dungeon. You speak of patience. He's your brother by law. Does family mean nothing to you? Lysa says, family means everything to me, and I will not risk Robin's life to get caught up in another one of your husband's wars. As Robin goes, I'm hungry. Hush, darling. You just ate. You will not support us then? Like they're in different modes there. Catelyn is like an all passionate, trying to rally the troop mode, and Lysa's just so yeah, not doing it. Do I understand you correctly? You will not help me. And then Robin through this whole scene just keeps going, but I'm hungry, Mom. And she goes, soon, love, you already ate. And Lysa just turns to it. You're always welcome here, my sister, but if you ask me to send men from the Vale to fight, that's what I asked. Go on. And she sends Robin away. She's like, time for your bath. Go off. I'll be in your bath soon to touch you. Robin leaves, and Robin says, if you fear for your safety or yours or your son, of course I fear for the safety and those of my son. You idiot. Are you an idiot? She calls Catelyn. They killed my husband. You say they shoved your boy from a window. These people will do anything. And that is why we have to stop them, Catelyn says. Lysa stands up and gets in her face, and he says, the Knights of the Vale will stay in the Vale where they belong to protect their fucking lord. And it's not really clear, but we find out later that that's the last straw, and Catelyn gets the hell out of there. She can't deal with this insanity anymore. And Kaylon says, yeah, Joe and Crow at the start of episode 9 sounds great. I'm just with Joe. Gosh, I miss the screaming. Me too. And trust me, I miss being able to take breaths. I'm going to be like mainlining hot tea at the end of this session. And I miss the drinking game as well of me sneaking off camera. Not that, I mean, like, you know, come on. So pretty soon I'll just do it on camera. But tits feed the world, my friend. Getting hungry. Oh, God, you guys are hilarious. You guys crack me the fuck up. If you can't get through, call 781-990-8509. So I just text last attempt. I just text Joe to call on the phone lines if he can. I'll do one more bongo solo at the end of the show. Bam. So, okay, let me shut that down. Shut that shit off right there. Shut that shit off, Phil. Okay, so Tyrion, then we cut off to, I feel like I'm going to be a broken record here, and I have been. Another one of my favorite scenes of the episode. Tyrion and Bronn. And Tyrion had escaped the Vale, and again, in the books, we learn a little bit more about what's going inside Tyrion's mind in this situation. Tyrion isn't just being an idiot singing and yelling. He knows that the Hills tribes are all around him and they're going to kill him no matter what when it really comes down to it. So he's basically trying to get their attention so he can expedite the process, because there's nothing worse than waiting to die. It's fun. It's one thing to be in a situation where, you know, if you're quiet, you get away with it. But it's one of these situations where the Hill tribes are going to find you. They're going to see you. You're going to be dead. What the fuck's the point? I'm going to be dead, or I'm going to bribe these people to be on my side. Let's just hurry this shit on. So Tyrion and Bronn are running through, and he's whistling. And I do think, quick fast forward to season 5, I think this is a funny parallel scene that you have with Tyrion singing and humming and whistling while they're walking, and Bronn being like, just shut up, where we go to the future in season 5 in Dorne with Bronn and Jaime, and it's kind of flipped where Bronn's the one whistling. You got to figure that Tyrion had a very big influence on Bronn in a lot of ways. So we continue. Hey, welcome to the room. Welcome to our recap and review of season 1, episode 8, The Pointy End. And everybody, I'll take this time to say, if you haven't already and you're in here checking out this video, you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. If you're enjoying this Babble Fest, this wonderful time we're having with you guys in the awesome fucking chat, subscribe so you know when we go live. You'll get a little notification every time we go live. And if you're around, you can pop in. We're going to have a lot of different broadcasts at different times of the day. We're on right after our shows on Sunday nights after Game of Thrones when it's in Game of Thrones season, or we'll be talking The Walking Dead, Better Call Saul when that comes back, and doing a weekly recap of some other shows. So please make sure, if you're interested and you want to have some fun with me, my friends Joe and Kate, all of our friends in the chat, gonna get some more people in as well. My friend Matt's going to be joining the ranks of our co-hosting shows as well, and some other people here and there. My friend John as well. We're going to be doing a recap of the Doctor Who episode that Maisie Williams is on. I can announce that right now. My friend John and I will be doing a review of that episode. I've never in my life watched an episode of Doctor Who. That will be the very first episode I watch. And someone else mentioned it earlier. We'll be doing some more Star Trek stuff soon. Joe is currently on a rewatch of Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine is my favorite show. And I've been wanting to do some more content on why that's the best Star Trek series. So, and I know a couple of our viewers are big Deep Space Nine fans as well. Kaylana, I believe. And I know our good friend Tim is also a huge Deep Space Nine fan. So look forward to that silliness coming up. I made a Garrick video years ago, and it got taken down from Facebook because I used clips from the movie. And it's on my Facebook now. If anyone is friends with me, you can see it under videos. You did not get back at the end. We're not quite to the end. We're at the middle point right now. I was just doing some, I was actually pausing while I caught up on my notes and scrolling up. So I was doing some pub shit. I'd you ever like you're looking at a document and you accidentally scroll to the wrong place and you're like lost in the document. I was scrolling to get to the right place. I like being honest to you guys. And I needed to stall for time, so I went on a little pub fest right there. Wow, agree with you on Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I believe Kaylon is also a huge 50-cent bongo riff on Game of Thrones. Nice. And yeah, I think we have a bunch of Deep Space Nine fans in the room. Here we go. Game of Thrones is the show for me. I really love all the history. I said. I'm sorry, that sucked because I wasn't standing up straight behind the bongos. I'm like slipping and falling. I fucked it up at the end. I'll get you one more at the end. Sorry, guys. Yes, Deep Space Nine is coming. Lots of Deep Space Nine reviews are happening. It's fucking happening, god damn it, motherfucker. I can't not talk about Star Trek anymore. It's ripping me up inside. So yeah, Joe and I are going to do a bunch of Star Trek oriented stuff, and I'm going to do some Star Trek stuff on my own as well. So look forward to that in the future, guys. Okay, so Tyrion and Bronn are walking through the hill tribes as we'll continue. Will you shut up? They're all around us. And Tyrion, who, oh my God, Tyrion is just unbelievably funny. He's the fucking best. Will you shut up? And Tyrion's like, if I'm going to die, might as well be with a song in my heart. And Bronn's like, I should just take your food and leave you. And leave you right here. And what else would you do? What would you do then? And Tyrion, who can answer everything, starve most likely. You don't think I would do it, do you? Says Bronn. What do you want, Bronn? Gold, women. I love this line so much. I love Tyrion in these moments so much coming up here. What do you want, Bronn? Gold, women, golden women. Stick with me and you'll have them all for as long as I'm around and not a moment longer. But you knew that. That is why you took up arms to defend my honor. He says, fair enough, but don't look for me to bend at the knee, my lord, every time you take a shit. I'm not your toady and I'm not your friend. Though I would treasure your friendship, I'm mainly interested in your facility with murder. And if the day ever comes where you're tempted to sell me out, remember this, whatever their price is, I'll beat it. I like living. Just the way he says it, his whole vibe in this scene is not that I didn't before, but I remember the first time I'm watching this. This is the moment where I'm like, Tyrion is my favorite character on television right now. He's fucking incredible. Just his whole vibe in this moment. And one of those things that, again, we talk a little bit about book versus show comparison here. Bronn is not, he's important in the books. He's just not as memorable to me in the books, and I just don't love him as much. And part of it is just the chemistry that Peter Dinklage and I'm blanking on his name, the actor that plays Bronn right now. I'm blanking on his name. Jerome Flynn, is it? Jerome Flynn? Have such great chemistry together, and it really starts to develop. This is our first time to the party, the first time to the Tyrion Bronn party. And it's a great time at that party. And I just love it so much. And they just have such a great back and forth. It's hilariously awesome. I am wearing pants. Yep, I'm wearing pants. It's true. Yeah, I might not be. Ninja Turtle pajama pants. It's true. It has finally been disclosed what I wear here under the table. I believe Katie's hand was in the last podcast. You could see her shoulder, maybe. Oh my. Okay. Blackout. Okay, I have officially given up on Joe for this show, guys. I'm sorry. It does not look like Joe will be joining us, unfortunately. I feel like the Bronn Tyrion chemistry is so much better in the show. Agreed. And it's not that, I think, without, again, getting too blatantly spoilery, I think what eventually happens, you believe it more in the books because you just never for a second doubt Bronn and Tyrion's relationship. On the show, they just have such great chemistry that it feels like they're so close. And it feels like they have this great balance of like fitting into that perfect symphony of a relationship. Some people might not know what I'm talking about, but I'll give a couple of references of this. It's like in Deep Space Nine when you have Quark and Odo interacting in the just marvelous balance the two of them have back and forth. Some could say, if you're for other Star Trek, Bones and Spock and McCoy, just two characters that just immediately have so much chemistry. It lifts up the performance. And both of them are awesome performers as is. So it just makes everything Tyrion and Bronn so tasty. And to me, this is the almost beginning part of it. Yes, Jerome Flynn plays Bronn. Yes, I got it correctly. Thank you, Lady Squee. I did it. I'm correct. I love when I get one right. Fran is coming at 8. Okay, thank you. Thank you for telling me Fran is coming. Someone was just warning me that someone else is coming to the house. I can imagine how some people might feel like when they come here and they like hear like this isn't usually I do the podcast like post 10 o'clock and I'm doing it different times of the day and I'm having to explain people, well, I can't really go out right now. I'm doing a podcast. Or someone's coming to the house. Shh, be quiet as you come into the house. Phil's screaming to himself in a microphone to a bunch of people, to all of his friends. It's really nice to talk to you guys. It's nice to have friends. So as we see Tyrion smiling, he just this cocky look of that he does. So they're walking, and then we hear Bronn. One of the only times I think Bronn ever calls Tyrion. He goes, Tyrion, Tyrion, Tyrion. He says it 3 times as the Hill tribe starts to approach. Bronn kind of gets in a defensive stance, but Tyrion decides, oh, okay. Come here, share our fire, help yourself to our goat. And one of the guys shows up and says, when you meet your gods, tell him Shagga, son of Dolph of the Stone Crows, Sancha. And he goes, I'm Tyrion, son of Tywin of Clan Lannister. Great to meet you. How would you like to die, Tyrion, son of Tywin? Maybe the best Peter Dinklage line ever and one of the most quotable lines from Game of Thrones ever created. Number 1 on my list of quotes from Game of Thrones right now, in this moment. In my own bed. How would you like to die? In my own bed at the age of 80 with a belly full of wine and a girl's mouth around my cock. Slow clap. Yes! Tyrion Lannister, you are fucking awesome. And just in case you're wondering, that line was in the book. That was written pretty much the same way in the book if you care about that sort of stuff. It's just such a great line, and you see so much of why George R.R. Martin said he wouldn't have wanted to do a TV show if he couldn't have got Peter Dinklage to play Tyrion Lannister. Like, he is the person that should play Tyrion Lannister. It's like, like sword in the stone, like he picked it up, that line, just the way he says it. It leads to later times when we're going to get lines like cock merchant. And it just, you ever had a dwarf's cock in your fucking ear? Or he's just, no one can be so smugly drunk and charming as Tyrion Lannister, and Peter Dinklage pulls it off. I repeat myself a lot saying this, but I think it's important. It's one of the things that makes Game of Thrones so great is that it's one of the, for the main characters and some of the strong points, it's one of the best casted shows ever. And the characters, except for when they decide to change actors and stuff. And I don't think it's perfect in every case, but I think in some of the main important cases, like with Tyrion, with Arya, those two specifically thinking, but with Jon ultimately, with Ned, with Robert Baratheon, like with just so many people, they just found these with Littlefinger. I mean, some could argue the Littlefinger thing. I've heard that argument before that he's not perfect. I was going to say Varys, but it came out as Littlefinger. But Littlefinger is one of the ones I know people could probably argue. Same with Daenerys. Same with a couple of other ones. Sophia Turner, the way she plays Sansa, and frustrates me to hell, but because the character of Sansa is frustrating as hell, she embodies her. And I think those elements are That's part of not just the story. And then as we get further down the line, the story strays and we get more of Dan and Dave's story and less of everything George wanted us to tell. It's the actors that hold us on to it. And even the people that are like, I'm not too into whatever. It's these performances and these characters. And as we go on, we haven't met them yet in this watch through, but people like Ramsay Snow, how they cast Roose, like all Tywin Lannister, just these perfect people that you just, it's just, they hit home runs, and the casting department deserves a bear. Like, I want to buy them a bear. Here we go. I was the same way about the book. Oberon show versus Oberyn show was so much better. Kaylana says, I'm a Kira Odo whore in an Odo Quark. Just awesome. Garrick, just everything is great about him. Phil, the psycho host online. Lady Scree says, Tyrion handling the clan is wonderful. I didn't know how he was going to do and get out of that. Yeah, Kaylana, Tyrion, drop the fucking mic. Absolutely. What the fuck was that? Oh, whoa, okay. Someone's home. Hi, home. You want to come in and be a part of the podcast? Okay, you're watching Survivor. Okay, then don't come in. We don't. The issues lady's in the other room, and she's watching Survivor. So you stay in there. You stay in the room, and you watch that Survivor. And I'm sorry that your favorite character in the world doesn't go home. Because cough, sand snakes. Absolutely, ladies. Great. Kaylana, I've seen photos of Dinklage just walking around from sneaky celebrity photos, and he had an attitude of that in real life. Yeah, a badass motherfucker. He doesn't see spitting gum in his wife's mouth and all that sort of shit. Hot. Oh, my God. But yes, I'm actually I'm a huge, not to get too far to Deep Space Nine, I'm a huge Garrick fan. He's probably one of my favorite television characters of all time. I love everything Quark as well. And Odo, I find their relationship intensely compelling. And in fact, the first video that's going to be about Deep Space Nine is going to be about me talking about Odo and Quark's relationship. Anyways, back to Game of Thrones here. So when you meet your gods, tell them Shagga, son of Dolph, and the Stonecrow sent you. I'm Tyrion, son of House Lannister, blah, blah, blah. In my own bed at the age of 80 with a belly full of wine and a girl's mouth around my cock. Come on, who doesn't? Take the half man, he can dance for the children, kill the other one, as Bronn draws his sword. Tyrion steps up and protects Bronn. No, my house is My house is rich and powerful. If you see me through the mountains, my father will shower you with gold. They say, we have no hope, we have no use for the half man's promises. Excuse me. A half man, maybe, but at least I have the courage to face my enemies. Mm-hmm. This was one of those moments where I wasn't sure about Tyrion's tactic here, about making them angry. I think he got a little ahead of himself in the equation here. He says, what do the Stonecrows do? Hide behind rocks and shiver when the Knights of the Vale ride by? I think he was doing it to try to pump them up for what he eventually says here, but I think he made a rare miscalculation here. And those are the best weapons you could steal, good enough for killing sheep if the sheep don't fight back. Lannister Smith's shit better steal, as you give him a little slice and give him a scar in the face. Gives him a message to remember him by. And he goes, Shagga says, you think you can win us over with your trinkets? And Tyrion gives him a ring. He says, this trinket's worth more than everything your tribes own. But with your help, Shagga, son of Dolph, I will not give you trinkets. I will give you this. What is this? The Vale of the Arryn. The Lords of the Vale have spat upon the Hills tribes for years. The Lords of the Vale want me dead. I believe it's time for new Lords of the Vale. And I wrote in my notes, charm, baby, charm. No one in all the Seven Kingdoms, in all of Essos, is more charming than Tyrion Lannister. He just can charm anybody. We've seen him charm cock merchants. We've seen him charm hill tribes. We've seen him charm anybody that isn't related to him, named Jamie, he can charm. Oh, yes. Oh, we have another one. I love the Deep Space Nine fans coming out of the woodwork, and it's funny that we all found each other. You're like the fourth or fifth of the people that of our little group here that's a Deep Space Nine fan too. That's like mentioned the thing in the back. Like, are you going to talk about Deep Space Nine, or just have this giant fucking poster in the back and never actually talk about the show? So we go to this next scene, which is I mean, what does Jon expect? Thorne said some horrible shit to him already. Did he really expect Thorne to be a nice guy here? Jon's eating and Thorne comes in, and who hates Ned already because Ned was fighting against him in the war because Thorne was on Team Targaryen. Has a history with him. He goes, "Oh, that's a rare sight. Not only a bastard, but a traitor's bastard." As Jon draws his knife, and he's gonna kill him. And the boys hold him back, and they put him down. "You'll hang for this bastard." And Mormont comes over and says, "I told you not to do anything stupid. You're confined to quarters." I guess my questions here is, I say yes. Would Jon really have killed him there? And from what we know of Thorne, young buck Jon right there, could he have taken Thorne, or would Thorne have been ready for him, thrown him on the ground, and killed him right there? How would that have ended if Pip and Gren and Sam didn't grab him there? Would Jon have cut his fucking throat, just dived across that table and stabbed Thorne right in the chest or right in the neck, or would Thorne have been able to take him down? I tend to think at this point, Thorne would probably be able to back up a little, back up and go smack and boot him right in the back of the head or something. Farquaad says, "I'm more of an Enterprise fan, and I will talk about Enterprise. We'll have a Star Trek podcast. I don't want to fill this with too much Star Trek because I tend to go in rants as is. If I end up talking Star Trek, I'm going to we'll be here for a lot longer." Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, is that no? You don't want to join me on the podcast? Is that what that no is? So Jon put it down anyways. So Jon ends up getting confined to quarters. So then we go into later that night, and okay, we talked about this last time. It pissed me off last time, but then I was listening to a commentary by George R. R. Martin. He explained it. So at least I know they're aware of it. But again, it's one of those things that was changed because of television. And it's starting this process of little things that you don't think are little. You think are little, but whatever. Ghost is here. And we hear Ghost barking up a storm. Yes, again, this was even more obvious than the last episode. He's just barking up a storm. George R. R. Martin has said that they tried it being silent, but it didn't work as well visually on screen. It messed with it a little bit. And they didn't like visually how it looked. That pisses me off. I know I shouldn't be pissed off by that. And it's no big deal, as George R. R. Martin said in a weird way. He's it's no big deal. That Ghost talks now. It just didn't work on film. And I get that. I don't know why it pisses me off a little bit, as I'm going to play the bongo while I let my cat out. Go, cat. Go. Exit the facility, cat. You're a good cat. And I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. So Ghost barks, but we're trying not to let that bother us. Kaylana says, Jon could easily take, or Enchantment says, Jon could easily take down Thorne even at this stage. Kaylana says, people with taste for good quality shows have been fans of similar shows. Some I just don't have the time or interest to watch, but believe are good from comments and reviews of respected sources. I feel the same way. There's certain shows that enough people have told me are awesome that even if I haven't seen it, I know that they're good. There's many shows like that. I agree with that. And Lady Squee, I don't know if you're a sci-fi fan or if you're a Star Trek fan at all. If you are, then I would highly recommend that series. Other than that, it's hard for me to recommend it not knowing whether you would like Star Trek or not. That being said, it's probably, to me, if you didn't have a show like Deep Space Nine, TV wouldn't be where it is today. That's a bigger issue of the fact that we're in such a type of programming where these TV shows are like books with chapters and everything goes on and they're long arcing storylines. Around the time that Deep Space Nine came out, all the shows where everything gets wrapped up in an hour. Very rarely does a storyline carry through. Deep Space Nine was really influential. There are a couple of other shows at the time that were influential in it as well. St. Elsewhere is another example of a show that was like that was kind of bridging that gap. But to me, that was the first show I was into, like a binge watching type show where I just watched every single episode and I just couldn't wait to finish the arcing storyline. Whereas I consider some other Star Trek series are very much like The Love Boat and everything ends in an hour. So anyways. So, okay. Hey, a cat has to do stuff and things. Meow. So Ghost is barking again, but it's not that big of a deal. So John walks out as the music changes and starts to get very creepy as Ghost leads him to Mormont's office. No wolf dream, just for the record, whatever. So the commander says, hello, who's there? Lord Commander, are you here? Snow says, Commander, as they make eye contact and they look and they see and a walker. A white is in there and grabs John. John starts stabbing it a bunch of times and it just goes down, gets back up, pulls the knife out, starts to walk the sword out, starts to walk, come at him. And John kind of grabs the fire in his hand and throws it at him. In the books, Ghost does a lot more in this scene, but whatever. John burns him down and the both of them just look at each other like, what the hell just happened? Exactly, Enchantment in Eternity. 100%. Lady Squeeze says, I watch Stargate a lot. I've heard a lot of praise of Deep Space Nine, so I might steal my sister's Netflix and try it out. I would recommend it. The only thing I can say, and just a warning, like a lot of shows like that, the first couple of seasons are slow because it's a lot of world building. The show really starts going in season 3. And I'd say that about a lot of Star Trek. Star Trek Next Generation is the same way. The first couple of seasons are a little slow moving. You got to get through a couple of clunkers, but it pays off in seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7. Big time. Big time. These scenes is wonderful. Too dark when I first saw it, but dang, I love it in the book too. Me too. I love this whole situation in the book. I think this is one of those situations where I do like a little bit more in the book because we deal with John and his dream. There's a little bit more to it. Just watching on this watch, I started thinking, where's the other dude too? You know, it's only one guy. Wasn't there another guy too? Another dead body? Shouldn't there be 2 whites? Anyways, but it's still an amazing scene. Very dark, but I love the look on Mormont's face. I love John and Mormont's reaction, looking at each other back and forth. Great performances by the actors. Great setup. Love anything Ghost, and I like that this is a big direwolf episode just in general. We get a couple of big scenes with the direwolves, something that I think sorely missing in the more recent seasons of Game of Thrones. So we cut to the, and I'm going to yada yada this scene a little bit. So we cut to the Dothraki horde, raping and pillaging, yada yada yada, the Lazarine, killing and selling people for the goods of gold. And I guess at the same time that Khal Drogo's horde is there, there's another complete horde raiding the same area. And Daenerys asks Jorah, I thought Dothraki don't believe in money. And the goal is to hire ships, princess, to sail to Westeros. Because the last time we held them off, Drogo was going on that big, long speech about how, because they tried to kill his unborn baby, that he's going to cross the narrow sea and go do some ass kicking and raping in Westeros. So we see some women being raped by Dothraki, and Daenerys is not dealing with this. And she says, Jorah, make them stop. Like Jorah can go over there and make them stop. And you heard me. And these men have shed blood for their cow. They now claim their rewards. And her blood rider just also says it's just the way things are. It's always been this way. And Jorah says, Princess, you have a gentle heart, but this is how things have always been. She doesn't like that. I don't have a gentle heart, sir. I just don't like raping and slavery and shit. And she makes them stop. And she says, stop or Drogo will hear this. So they break it up. And this one guy is really, really pissed about what's going on. And we see one of the women being saved from the rape is this woman, Mary Mazdor. So what do you want done with them? Bring them to me. You can't claim them all, princess. And she says, I can and I will. So we cut over to Drogo, who's listening to this guy Maego talk shit about Khaleesi. And Drogo at first, he finds it all amusing, but he takes Maego's side at first and is like, listen, Khaleesi, my moon and my stars, sun and my stars. This can't happen. This is the way things are. He's earned those women. He tries to argue with her, but she's just like, no, fuck that. I want these women. They're mine. I claim them and they can't be touched. If you're Dothraki, want to bone them, they can marry them. That's what they can do. Other than that, they're mine. They're under my protection. And Drogo loves this. Drogo is just loving every minute of this. He's like, listen to my son pushing her, saying no to me. That's my son inside making her do that. And it's worth mentioning that this scene was added to the show wasn't in the books. Drogo gets hurt in this scene, and he did get hurt in the books as well, but gets hurt in a different way, fighting another horde. He added this scene. This was a request by Jason Momoa to have a scene where he showed off how much of a badass Drogo is. He felt like there was all this talk about how Drogo was the best fighter, but they never actually showed it. So when George R. R. Martin was writing this script, he asked for this scene to be added to it. And they did. Farquaad Stannis, fewer gamers. Yeah. Fewer. Worf corresponding with the final ripping of the Changeling and the new ship. I could live without him, even as a Klingon fan, but his integration finally got better. The only reason, quickly on that, the only reason I agree with you to a certain extent. I feel like Worf was necessary to bring the Klingon element, and because of all the extra stuff we got on the show, because of Worf being there, and all the Klingon backstory and culture stuff that we never would have got on Next Generation with him, because in Next Generation he's just the butt of a joke, or to sit there and talk about poetic bullshit that makes no sense. Because of the nature of Deep Space Nine being a show that looked at different alien races, not just from the narrow foundation of the Federation, it was really a necessary evil bringing him there. So Drogo tries to argue with her, but she just plays it off. Yada, 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 yada. So he fights the guy, dodges, slashes. The guy challenges him like an idiot. It's like, oh, I can beat Khal Drogo. I'm tough. No, you're not tough. You can't beat Khal Drogo. What's this guy thinking? Does this guy really think he can beat Drogo in a fight, or did he think he would fight his Blood Rider? And that's why he started to fight and thinking he could put up a fight on there, and then Drogo would have to, because the Blood Rider was fighting for him in the trial by combat, so to speak. But whatever. So the guy, Drogo's like pissed off. He's like, listen, bitch, put your dick somewhere else. And this guy's like, fuck you, and does the Dothraki spit thing. Spit take. So Drogo talks some shit, leans into the blade, cuts himself because the script says he needs to be cut. Then he throws his knives on the ground, picks up the knives, and stabs the guy, kills him, goes, you're already dead, cuts his neck out, rips out his whole fucking throat, and throws it in the pot next to him, sits down in the chair, and the the wound magically disappears. But watch the mistakes video. And then Drogo sits there. Dany runs to him. Oh, my sun and stars are hurt. Where are the healers? Healers aren't around conveniently. And Mary Mazdor goes, I can heal, because she speaks all the languages. And she comes over, and one of the Carl's Blood Riders just slaps the shit out of her, spits on her, calls her a witch. And eventually Daenerys guilt trips Drogo into letting this woman work on her and take care so the wound won't fester. Kaylana says the Dothraki scenes, like in Star Trek, would have been more relatable if they had subtitles then they could be translated for other languages. I agree with that, especially for me, considering how I get all the lines from the episode. I take the subtitles of from the episode, and then I put the words, like that's part of my notes, and then that's how it's different from the Game of Thrones to when I do an episode live. On the old recaps, I actually take the whole script of the episode and then make notes. But how I get the script of the episode is I get a subtitle track and I just paste the track on the page. So I don't know any of the Dothraki translations because it's not there. And while I'm watching the episode, I'm trying to take notes on the Dothraki stuff, but I was just sort of ignoring it. Anyways, so we go to Sleeping Puppy, Sleeping Greywind, to the Bannermen of the North at a table. Great John Umber taking a shit at dinner. So for 30 years, I've been making corpses of men, boy. I'm the man you want leading the vanguard. Robb says Glover will lead the vanguard. And Umber doesn't like that and says the bloody wall will melt before an Umber marches behind a Glover. What? What are you talking about, motherfucker? Start recording again. There we go. Okay. So I have to do that again. The bloody wall will melt before an Umber marches behind a Glover. Now, you're welcome to do so, Lord Umber, as Robb stands up and gets in his face. He says, and then when I'm done with the Lannisters, I'm going to march the fuck back down the north, root you out of your goddamn house, and hang you for a motherfucking oathbreaker. The great John stands up and says, oathbreaker, is it? I'll not sit here and swallow insults from a boy so green he pisses grass. this is another thing that gets sort of soft soaked or quickly grazed over, how much people think of Rob as someone very, very green and all this shit talk. It kind of gets fixed all in a moment in a scene here, but in the books, it's a bigger issue. As Greywind as Rob and him are yelling back and forth, Greywind does not like his master being challenged. And Greywind basically gives Rob his balls here. And he just jumps up, or doesn't give Rob his balls, gives Rob his sword, so to speak. Gives him his threat for something bad to happen to all these old cows that would never normally follow a boy, or would always have a problem with following a boy. How do you think, how did the weapon get poisoned to infect Drogo, or was it the witch that healed him that infected him? Is Aquaman coming? Do you think that Drogo would have been fine if Mary Mazdor had not treated the wound? This is where we get into show versus book. I don't know, because it is worth probably, or if he had or my biggest question with it all is if the actual Dothraki healers had worked on him, would he have been okay? I don't think the blade was poison. I don't think that was the issue. I do think that it got infected because of what she put on it, but I don't know if she poisoned him on purpose and actually because again, I can only go by because the book gets into a little bit more detail about it in the sense, whereas on the show, as we'll fast forward to that, it's a matter of, I think the next time we see Drogo, he's like falling off his horse. Sorry to jump ahead a little bit. But with this situation, in the book, they talk about how she covers it and tells Drogo not to do X, Y, and Z and to make sure it stays covered and does this. And he just ignores her and kind of like rips it off and fucks with it. So, I mean, it could be worth saying that as I stall for time to let the hat come back in now after his brief absence, I think Drogo had a lot to do with fucking it up himself when it really comes down to it. I don't think he listened to her because he didn't respect her methods. Whether it was a plan from the very beginning of her to poison him and then to have what happened can be debated, and I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one, about what I really believe. In the books, I think it's more clear that she does what she can, but then she doesn't really give a fuck when it comes down to it. On the show, it seems more like they come straight out and say that Mary Mazdor poisoned him and fucked with him, and it probably wouldn't have been as big of a problem. Renren said, yep, Drogo didn't follow her instructions. She did. Lady Squeeze says, I don't know how she spoke later on. It made it seem like she did it on purpose. It's complicated. Exactly. I don't know if and it could be one of those things that she did it knowing he would fuck with it because he's an animal in her mind, and that he's no way he could, and he has an ego, so there's no way he would do the steps he needs to do to actually heal it. So she kind of set him up on the path to fuck him over. Also, if you haven't checked it out already, please check out Preston Jacobs in some of his theory videos, which some of you might think are kooky, but he has a couple of interesting theories about Mary Mazdor, where she's from, and what her real agenda might be that I think is very interesting. So if you haven't checked out any Preston Jacobs stuff, please check out Preston Jacobs. He does very, very good work for theories and speculations and crazy tinfoil stuff. That sub stuff you're like, Chris is crazy, but it helps you, makes you look at things in a different way sometimes. So I got to give full credit to him with some of the Mary Mazdor stuff, that she comes from a shy, she knows all the languages. It's a lot of hinky stuff with this woman. So who knows what really is the case in this situation. So great. So my lords taught me, so where are, okay. So Great John gets attacked by by Greywind, who bites off couple of his fingers, or one of his fingers. And, Rob jumps in and goes, my Lord Father taught me it was death to bear steel against your liege lord, but no doubtless the Great John only meant to cut my meat. And Great John looks around, does like a once over, thinks about his reaction to all of this, and says, gains a little bit of respect for the power that this kid wields, so to speak, and for giving him a shot here and kind of voicing this and not just killing him. And says, your meat is bloody tough. And everyone laughs. Except for Bran. Again, this is a book thing. You're inside Bran's head in this scene. So Bran's like, I don't get what the fuck's going on. And they do a good job in the show of doing a quick shot of Bran where he's just like, what is going on here? So off to Rob checking in on Bran and saying goodbye to him. And he says, what is all this? What's going on here, buddy? What's up, buddy? What's the case? And Bran goes, wake up, motherfucker, wake up. No. I'm Ho, by the way. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find... I'm sorry, I gave up on Joe. Again, I just tried to check on Joe again. It's not happening. Joe will actually make it in here for like the last second. He'll be like, yes, and I love this episode. So we go off so Bran is sleeping and Rob is like, you mean it's bloody tough. Sorry, Enchantment. Your meat is bloody tough. It's one of the best lines of the show. I agree. Spoilers. Have you seen the theory that Mazdor's monologue at the end was actually a prophecy, not a smart-ass answer? I have seen that. Kaylana, the way the show had her later speak so angry and resentful, revengeful to Dany made it seem like she hated Dothraki no matter Dany saving her. And I agree. The show makes it seem like it was all a plan. Like she made this plan. She wanted to take down this Dothraki on the strongest Dothraki horde so he wouldn't rape anybody, wanted to kill the babe. Sorry, whatever. Wanted to kill, with everything. Like this, it makes it seem like that's the case. You talk for 2 hours. I can't keep my mouth shut. For what's like, you can only protect current spoilers so long. This is fucking 2011 here. If you haven't watched them and you're watched this far into the podcast and heard this, I'm so sorry. But so the show makes it seem like it's her plan from go. The book, it's a little bit more vague, so it's complicated. So we're talking about the show here. So in the show world, I'm going to go by that this was all a plan. Not a plan, an opportunity. She took advantage of an opportunity. Eats every damn chicken. That is one of the best lines, Farcloud. Off to Rob coming in on Bran. So what is this? What happened? Where are you going? You're going south. The Lannisters have spies everywhere. They have an interesting talk where Bran is trying to get him to come with him. He's like, I can come with you. The Lannister soldiers have more soldiers than you. I can protect you. I can ride now. I'm okay. Rob acts very much like a father to him in the scene. Very protective, very, very friendly, very comforting. In the books, he acts a little different. He acts a little bit more scared. And Bran almost acts like the parent in the situation. But But in the show, they have Rob, because Rob's older on the show. They have him be a little bit more competent, and a little bit more taking over the mantle and showing how he's in control to a certain extent and understanding what's going on. So we go to the Godswood, and I forgot something. So after Rob leaves, we see Rickon in the dark, and Bran goes from, how long you been hiding there? Rob will be looking for you to say goodbye. And Rickon says they've all gone. Rob says they'll be back soon. And Rickon says, no, they won't. Come on, Rickon. Don't be so depressed. Don't be so down. Everyone's going to be back soon. Excuse me. So we go to the Godswood, and Bran's praying. And we get a great visual shot of Osha walking towards him. And Bran's praying, saying, please watch over Rob and watch over all the other men of Winterfell. And Theon too, I suppose. And she gets in this whole thing where she talks about the old gods listen to me too. The wildlings pray the old gods. Your brother's going in the wrong direction. There are no werewolves south of here or south of the Reach. I forget where she says. There's no werewolves in the south, which I don't know if is exactly true, but whatever. And they get into this whole thing back and forth where she tells him, starts talking about the real dangers up north, that your brother's marching in the wrong direction. Then Hodor shows up, and it's really fun. We get some Hodor fun. And what does Hodor have to say?
Hodor.
That's what do you say, Hodor?
Hodor.
What?
Hodor.
No. Let me see. Do we have a phone call? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Joe Dirtylocks. How's it going, Joe?
Hey, it goes well. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Well, we decided that you guys can do your full recap or full thoughts of this episode at the beginning of episode 9, since we had some trouble connecting with you.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. I couldn't get my computer working. I had a late doctor's appointment. Wasn't able to get on in time.
It's okay, Joe. You don't have to worry about it. We've been having a fun time. We miss you, but we've been having a fun time.
And so what part you on now?
Okay, we're towards the end, and we are at where Rickon had just said that no one's coming home, and now we're at the gods.
Rickon who? Katie said Rickon who? Who's this Rickon you speak of?
I heard some crows in the background right there. Yeah, is Rickon a green sider, if people ask? I think we're at the part where Bran is in the Godswood praying, and Osha's telling him that the gods will not watch over Robb because he's going too far south.
Yep.
So
yeah,
we see Hodor's. I believe we see Hodor's penis in here. Do we see Hodor's penis?
No, she does. We don't.
We don't get to see it. We only see Hodor's.
Yeah, he gets out of the mud, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's a tree trunk."
We were joking that you were going to pop in right at the end here, and we get you. The chat room forgives you, you bastard. Say bastard. Rickon.
I know. Nice knee to the back of the head.
Rickon is Game of Thrones. I see dead people. Oh my gosh. Okay, so she basically says, "I'm a slave." She makes jokes for a slave. Beyond the wall, there are only gods. Even slaves are allowed to pray. Bran says, "You're not a slave," and she kind of does this little smile, ring of the shackle of her legs. It's interesting to mention that yes, this episode was written by George R. R. Martin. George R. R. Martin said that there's only one character in the history of the show so far that's made him want to write more stuff for her so he can have her do more stuff on the show, and that is Osha. He really loves the way this character's portraying. He says she's one of the only things that he feels was done better in the show than the books. From his point of view, he feels like she's better on the show.
Yeah, she's really good on the show.
She really is.
I think she might be one of the best characters on the show.
Lady Squeeze says, yes, it is a Hodor's penis. We do see Hodor's penis. Maybe you were closing your eyes, Joe. Or it looks so small because Hodor...
traumatized.
It just looks small because Hodor's so big.
It looks so small because of what I'm used to dealing with.
It's very true, my friend. Very true. So you're used to dealing with a lot bigger dick than that. We hang out. We hang out all the time and play sword fight. So while your friend didn't put a knife to, Bran says, your friend did put a knife to my throat, and she goes, "I'm not complaining, little lord, just telling truths." What do you mean about hearing the gods? You asked, and they're answering you. Open your ears. Bran says it's only the wind. What do you think sends the wind, if not the gods? You see, boy, they hear you, boy. And, okay, this is another thing that's worth mentioning. They get into the fact that Bran dreams on the show, but as another thing, just dreams in general aren't as important in the show as they are in the books. In the books, she's feeding into a lot of what Bran is having paranoid dreams about. And she's feeding into a lot of, which some could say would be, I don't want to jump ahead. Someone seems to be calling out to Bran, it seems.
Yeah. I think they really downplayed these dreams, actually, in the show as opposed to the books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite a bit.
Kaylana says, we get to see Hodor's schlong for sure. And Lady Squeeze says she spat out her tea when she saw that schlong.
I definitely have to watch again. I don't remember seeing his actual schlong.
Yep, no, we see it. I was pretty sure we see Hodor penis. And that's important. I'm glad we got you here for the important part.
It is. If I was going to chime in on any part, it would be on the private part.
The private part. Okay, quickly before we go any further, Joe, do you think Serial Pharrell is alive or dead?
I had always thought he was dead. But over the last off season and through the last season, I think I changed my mind to that whole, if we don't see them die, they're not dead. And when I've over the rewatch and watching what happens, they don't show him die. She runs off, she hears them fighting, she pauses and looks back, and then keeps going, and we don't ever see Serial Pharrell again. So, but I think he's alive.
You think he's alive? Okay. And I'm just trying to think of what other like quick highlights from the episode that we already talked about. Tyrion wants to die with a 80-year-old with wine in his mouth and woman's mouth on his cock. Could you think of a better way to die?
Yeah, many better ways to die.
Never.
Like just about anybody else's mouth on that cock than a lion.
Oh no, he said a woman's mouth on his cock, not a lion.
Who?
What?
Who?
Tyrion's line about how he wants to die, and he says, "I want to die at 80 years old in a big bed with wine in my hand and a woman's mouth on my cock."
Oh right, no, yeah, that's about the best way to go.
Okay.
Just about.
Enchantment of Eternity, which sounds like a magic card, says Rave of Thrones came to my city 2 days ago, and I just found out about it yesterday, and I missed it. That sucked. Was Hodor spinning at the Rave of Thrones? Joe and I went to a party last year where we saw Hodor spinning. There's some video of that somewhere.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's pretty good. He's good. He's good at. If you're into house music, he does a very good job at spinning it. If you're into it. So he says, Bran says to him, "Go back and find your clothes, Hodor. Go dress." And Hodor goes and dress. He goes, "Are there really Hodor. And are there really giants beyond the wall? Giants and worse than giants," as the music starts to get dark and changes tone and it gets more serious. "I tried telling your brother he's marching the wrong way. All these swords, they should be going north, boy. North, not south." And I think it's interesting, too, that much like the Dominion, the way that the whole Walker thing gets introduced into the series is very slowly but surely. Walker thing. I'm sorry, not Walker thing. Whites and White Walker thing gets introduced so slow. We see it in that very first scene in the episode, in episode 1. And then we get to this.
Nothing but mentions again until
here, where we see some whites actually being alive and being through. It's just really cool how they slowly but surely do that, and to jump in our time machine and go to the future to how it's now turning out centrally becoming more part of the plot. And they've sort of I like how little it's been there, but always been there. Similar again.
Right.
Sorry, I can't look at you, so I don't know when you're gonna start talking.
Sorry. I was going to say it's really good the way they did it, because they managed to take a fantasy novel and turn it into what basically is like a medieval story that leaves the fantasy almost out of it for most of every season, with small bits like the opening scene with the whites, and then what we'll see in the last scene of the season, and then like one or two other things sprinkled in here or there. Like when Jon has to deal with the guy up at the wall, the white at the wall. Like little things, quick scenes. I think there's maybe about 15 minutes of actual like fantastic, like fantasy fantastic stuff. And the rest is very just real life.
Right.
For Middle Ages time period. I really like the way that was balanced in the books. I really like the way that that's balanced on the television. So you're not necessarily watching a fantasy, although you are absolutely watching a fantasy.
Absolutely. And that's why I think a lot of people that don't like fantasy like Game of Thrones. And because they like the political intrigue and all the quote unquote historical references to the war or comparisons to the War of Roses and all that sort of stuff. People get way into it from that level. Kaylana says some posted it was a fake prosthetic, not really Kirsten, however you pronounce his name, Kristen, the actor's penis front naked. But I bet he's getting extra laid from the show doing those raves. I bet he is too.
Yeah.
And getting some correction about the White Walkers. So we cut to the men in the fire and Sam talking. Those guys talking about the two guys, even though, again, this is worth mentioning. In the scene, we only saw one, but they're burning both. And Sam says they were touched by the White Walkers. So it was interesting that whoever reanimated those chose to only reanimate one of them. They were touched by the White Walkers. That's why they came back. That's why their eyes turned blue. Only fire will stop them. And Jon turns and says, "How do you know that?" But Jon knew that. Like, how does Sam? Like, Jon knew that, and we we talked about how everybody in the North knows that. We were talking about that earlier. Not to mention John has.
It's part of all like the old man stories, all the lore, all that stuff.
That
stuff that's mentioned.
We were speculating earlier whether John would have been allowed the benefit of Old Nan's stories, or Catelyn wouldn't even allow that. But Old Nan comes with Ned, so Ned would make sure that John got Old Nan stories as well.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Because here's the thing: Old Nan is also like, she's the babysitter, so she doesn't want to watch Rob.
Absolutely.
So Old Nan will watch Rob.
So what else did the books? So John asked him how he heard about that too, and he said a very old book in Maester Aemon's library. What else do the books say? John asks. The White Walkers sleep beneath the ice for thousands of years, and when they wake up, Pip says, and when they wake up, Sam goes, I hope the wall is high enough. As we look up, and the wall's pretty high. It's pretty high. So
about 700 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking high. So we go over to Moat Cailin, where Caitlin, I'm sorry, I'm like listening to the audiobooks. Catelyn has arrived. She left the area apparently. We don't actually get to see her leave, which again is a much longer process in the book of Catelyn actually leaving the Eyrie. And she's with Roderick, and they're heading towards where Rob's camps are. So we cut to the camp where they're talking about the River Lords are fighting back with Jaime Lannister at their heels, and Lord Tywin's bringing around the second Lannister army from the south. And they just go back and forth until later Lady Catelyn shows up, and Lady Catelyn tries her best not to embrace Rob right on the spot. They seem to have like she wants to just go to him and hug him, but she recognizes the situation he's in, and she gathers herself and asks everyone to leave. Great John Umber clears the room. You heard her. Move your asses. Come on, you too, Greyjoy. Are you bloody deaf? Get the fuck out of here. And then we also hear, don't worry, when on an episode of Amazing One-Liners, we'll shove our swords up Tywin Lannister's bunghole, and then it's on to the Red Keep to save Ned. I believe them too. I think Ned might be.
I did too.
Yeah, I did too. I totally did too. So we're here, you old devil, and we hear Great John and Roderick sort of embrace in the background of the scene. So then we see Catelyn and Rob talking, and this is one of those. I think this scene dictates perfectly who Catelyn Stark is. She both builds Rob up, strikes him down, makes him feel like a child, makes him feel insecure, and then gives him very sage tactical advice. All in one. She does it all. She doesn't give him great advice. She gives him tactical advice about, don't go to King's Landing. Of course, you'll be butchered. She's not being an idiot, but she's also giving him like a guilt trip from hell. I'd send you home if I could. And really,
yep.
Catelyn, this is your fucking fault because you never should have left fucking Winterfell. Ned left you in charge.
Yeah. And she shouldn't have. She accomplished absolutely nothing by leaving Winterfell.
Nope, except for starting a war.
Through to Ned, but all she did was put him in precarious situations, give Peter Baelish some ammo. It got her tied up with all that fucking Tyrion bullshit, and then go into the Vale and all that. Like, this was nothing but disaster for her and her family by her leaving.
Yep.
She basically accomplished the fall of Winterfell.
Exactly. She caused the start of the war because she kidnapped Tyrion for. Spoiler alert, for no good reason, because she was getting fucking played by Littlefinger the whole fucking time.
Yep.
Whatever.
Well, we're definitely led to believe that, but I think we find out later who actually sends that assassin.
Right, but I just mean that the whole plan got in motion with Jon Arryn dying. I think they weren't Littlefinger's, whatever. We'll talk about that as time goes on.
Yeah, it's so involved. There's so many players. There's so much manipulation and going on with all the different characters. And it's hard to say who actually. I mean, there's so many different. The assassin doesn't come if the boy doesn't fall. If the boy doesn't climb the tower, he doesn't get pushed out the window. Like. So was it Baelish killing Aaron? Was it Catelyn killing or Catelyn and Jaime throwing him out of a window? Was it the little prince there sending the assassin on his own? But ultimately, it all boils down to if she had kept her ass at fucking Winterfell, there's a high chance that none of this shit would have happened.
Yep. So,
Mom, stay with your kids.
yep. Don't leave your kids, Mom.
Right?
So basically the scene amounts to them saying, if you ever lose a battle, your father dies, your sister die, we die. Well, that's not going to happen. Well, that makes it simple. I'll just win. So we cut over to Tyrion and Bronn and the Mountain Clans, sort of the Stone Crows, not just the Stone Crows, all the Mountain Clans. Somehow they all came together, approaching Tywin's camp. So Tyrion says, it might be best for Bronn and I to continue alone here. Best for Tyrion, son of Tywin, not best for me, says Shagga. If the half-man betrays us, Shagga, son of Dolph, will cut off his man, and Tyrion interrupts him. Yes, and feed it to the goats. I've heard this before.
Mm-hmm.
So we go off to the camp, and Tyrion marches his way into his dad's tent. Kevin seems almost happy to see him, and he goes, Tyrion, and father, the rumors of your demise were unfounded. Sorry to disappoint you, says Tyrion. And then starts one of the funniest moments in the episode of playing the game of keep the wine away from Tyrion that's played on the table, where Tyrion keeps trying to grab the glass of wine, and Tywin keeps moving away from the wine. Which, again, another line from George R.R. Martin about this episode. He goes, I don't know how that happened, but I love it. It was never in the script. There was no director that said anything about that. So potentially that was just Charles Dance and Peter.
It's a very father-son moment.
Absolutely.
It's not just a father-son moment, but it's you just got here, you're about to debrief, and that's not a time to be drinking. There'll be time for that when you're done telling me what's going on.
I'm okay.
It's a very father-son moment. If that's really as organic as you're saying, I think that just goes to show the level that these people are operating on.
Yeah.
These casting directors and producers pick such immense talent that even if they weren't working with the brilliant script that they're working with, they could elevate this program to better than most other TV.
I agree with you 100%. You're almost quoting me word for word of something I was saying earlier, that the cast keeps you going. Even if the show is like stories were bad, which they're not, even if it were, the actors are still do such great jobs with these characters.
Right. And that's kind of like the stuff that I was talking about in some of the previous recent podcasts that we've done too, is that these little things that you like, picking up that gun in Fear the Walking Dead that she didn't do. That's such a small thing that the actor could have actually done on her own, and the director would have seen it and been like, that works. Of course she would pick up that gun. But that actress didn't have the foresight to do it unless the director told her, no, you can't have that gun. Leave it where it is. Which I would say the director's a fucking idiot. So either way, you don't have that quite like you do in Game of Thrones, where the directors didn't say to do this, George R. R. Martin didn't put it in the script, and the two actors took it upon themselves to make Tyrion went to drink, and Tywin moved it away. Tyrion went to grab it again, and Tywin gave him another look and moved it a little way up. And then at the end of the scene, if I'm remembering correctly, Tywin pours him a drink.
No, Tyrion gets the wine at the end, and no, it's a different scene where Tywin finally pours him a drink. At the end, he gets to the wine, and it's right when Tywin goes over and eye fucks the Stone Crows and says, and they're like, Tyrion has to come with us. And they turn back to Tyrion, and he's like grabbing the wine. He's like, he finally made it to it. He's like, oh shit. Okay, yeah. And so in this scene, the scene basically goes, and Tyrion and Tywin go back and forth about just cluing. It's almost a little bit of backstory, so to catch Tyrion up with what's going on. Tyrion doesn't know Robert Baratheon's dead. He finds that out in the scene. They talk about how he's like, thanks for getting yourself kidnapped. Jaime wouldn't have submitted to that. And he goes, and Tyrion has a great line where he says, Jaime and I are much different. What's the line? We have our differences. He's braver. I'm better looking. And it goes back and forth, and they have, thank you for going to war for me. And they just go back and forth. And eventually the scene's interrupted with a dude that comes in and ignores Tyrion. He just sits right in front of Tywin. He says, Robb Stark has started moving his troops. And Tywin shouts, "The wolf rushes into the lion's jaw, so be it." And Kevin command the drummers, beat the assembly, and send word to Jaime and move against Robb Stark. And they go. Then Tywin fucks the Mountain Clan men and decides to make them in the vanguard and be the first line of defense. And Tyrion's forced to fight with him. So Tywin's like, win-win. My son gets killed, and I get some tough stone crows on my side. So we go to you feed privates to the goats is a good funny running gag. Phil is choking. Don't die. I took the strangler poison, so I'll be okay. I had an antidote around my neck. So over to Robb's console, and they're arguing to the point of basically talking about needing the phrase. This is our first talk of we need the phrase to cross the bridge. The late Walter Frey, because he arrived at the Battle of the Trident late to see who was the winner and then joined the winning side. We get a little bit of that. And at the same time, this is interspliced with seeing a Manny Lannister spy that we find out being dragged through the camp. So he gets brought in. We get a funny line from Great Job Umber that Theon covers the map and he goes, "Don't worry, that kid's not leaving here with his head." Robb walks over to him and goes, "How high did you count when you were counting our men?" And he goes, 20,000. Everyone kind of looks around and said, and someone, I think it is one of his men. I forget who it is, but he says, "Robb, you don't have to do this. Your father would understand." He goes, "My father would understand mercy where there's room for it. And I understand honor and courage," as he looks at the spy in a sense, and he goes, "I'm going to let him go." And everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And his mother goes, "Robb," like to disagree with him. And he gives her the same look that Vito Corleone gave.
Shut the fuck up, woman.
That gave Sonny when he disagrees with him in the meeting with Salazzo at the beginning of Godfather 1. And he noticeably disagrees with him in front of other people. And it causes all kinds of problems. And he just gives his mom the look like, "What the fuck? Shut up, mom. Don't make me fucking kick you out of here." And Robb gets into his face and he goes, "Listen, tell Lord Tywin winter is coming for him to find out if he really shits gold." And he lets him go. And, excuse me, everyone gets pissed. Do you think Robb made a mistake letting him go?
No, not at all. He did it on purpose. It was counter-espionage.
Exactly. It was part
he
of
was going to bring back information that was going to be false information. Absolutely.
Kaylana says, "Frey River Bridge, get his corporation. Dun, 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 dun." Okay, so we get to our final scene of the episode, and here we go. Pycelle is kicking ass in this episode. This is a great Pycelle episode. He goes, "If it's a wish of his grace that the royal servant Janos Slynt, commander of the City Watch," and as we follow Sansa in this scene as she walks in.
Is this the one that starts with him doing the little prostitute girl?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is the end scene where he's in the court. Joffrey's first time, like we really see Joffrey commanding over his people. And right. I grant you grants Janos Slynt the seat of Harrenhal and his sons and grandsons, whatever. And in the place of traitor Eddard Stark, it's the wish of I forgot one scene. We get a quick scene of Ned Stark in the dungeons again, falling asleep and then getting kicked. And then we cut over to the scene. It's like a quick scene of just Ned getting kicked. So Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, Warden of the West, will be appointed Hand of the King. And lastly, in these times of treason and turmoil, in the view of the council, that the life and safety of King Joffrey is to be the utmost importance. So the Hound is about to replace somebody on the King's Guard. So they call Barristan Selmy. "You, Grace, I'm yours to command." And Cersei says, "Rise, Sir Barristan. You may remove your helm. You have served the realm long and faithfully. Every man and woman in the Seven Kingdoms owes you thanks. But it's your time to put aside your armor and your sword to rest."
Oh, you fucking bitch.
Yeah, only death can reveal our sacred trust. "Whose death, Sir Barristan, yours or your king?" To which Joffrey says the first thing we've actually heard Joffrey talk, where he goes, "You let my father die. You're too old to protect anybody." Wow. "Your Grace, the council has determined that Sir Jaime Lannister will take your place as Lord Commander of the King's Guard." And Barristan loses his shit. He's like, "The man who profaned his blade of the blood of the king has sworn to defend, like that he killed the Mad King and stabbed the Mad King in the back. You're making him the head of the King's Guard? That's fucking hypocritical. What the fuck?" And Varys says, this is where Varys interrupts and tries to sort of mitigate the situation. We have nothing but gratitude for your long service, Sir Barristan. You'll be given a stout keep beside the sea with servants to look after you every need. And Barristan goes, a hall to die in and men to bury me. As he starts taking off the cloak, I'm a knight, I shall die a knight. Who Littlefinger, who's waiting for like some wise assery, says, a naked knight, apparently, to which everyone just laughs. And the whole place is like, but then
you're gonna insult this guy too as he's leaving.
And then, as Kaylana says, Barristan walks out like a boss, but he pissed me off dissing Jaime, calling him the Kingslayer Oathbreaker when he worked still with Robert. That did kind of piss me off a little bit as well, because he's so nice to Jaime's face, and then he talks shit about him behind his back a little bit. That was a little less than honorable, but a little bit more towards Book Barristan. Kaylana says, Pycelle, that sunken gray cunt. Great way of describing Pycelle.
Yeah, Pycelle, I think, aside from Cersei,
is the biggest cunt in Game of Thrones.
Is the biggest cunt in Game of Thrones, correct? Because he's nothing but a douche. There's like Peter has some redeeming qualities in that he does help some of our heroes to his own gain, but even Joffrey couldn't really be too much to blame. He was still just a kid, for Christ's sake.
No, fair enough.
But
a child
like Pycelle, Pycelle is just he's a douche. He hasn't done anything to help anybody but himself or screw people over.
Absolutely. So Barristan, everyone just can't stop laughing, and Barristan draws his sword, and the whole place goes silent, and every Kingsguard pulls out their weapons, including the Hound, and are all like...
They would all die. They're all
scared shitless.
He would probably take half of them with him.
Yep. And even now I could cut through 5 of you like carving a cake. He throws down his sword. He says, here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others, and walks out again like a fucking boss. What do you think would have happened if Barristan wasn't dismissed, says Lady Squee? I think he would have just ended up having to do a lot of horrible things for Joffrey, and knowing Barristan, he probably would have done them. Yep. And it would have been unfortunate.
The best thing that could have happened to him was being discharged.
Yep. And again, just to mention him again, there are some out there, not saying Preston Jacobs, who believe that this was all a setup again by Varys. That Varys set this up and had Ilario waiting for Barristan after he left here, knowing to protect Daenerys later on. That this was all.
Yeah, no, that's a good possibility.
It is a possibility. That he suggested this to Joffrey, and that he's the one that instigated all of this, and this was all his way of getting Barristan to do what he really believes is protect the real royalty.
Right.
So then the announcer guy, whatever, if any man in this hall has any other matters to set before his grace, let him speak now or forever hold his peace. And Sansa steps up. She says, looks at Joffrey, and Joffrey says very calmly, very nicely, come forward, my lady. The lady Sansa of House Stark gets introduced. Do you have some business for the king and the council, Sansa? I do, says Cersei. And she says, I do. As it please your grace, I ask for mercy of my father, Lord Eddard Stark, who is hand of the king. And Cunty McCuntslot, number 2, Pycelle, says, treason is a noxious... Wait. I'm sorry.
Treason is a noxious weed. It should be torn out by the root.
As Joffrey says, let her speak. I want to hear what she has to say. She says, thank you, my grace. And I think it's Littlefinger or Varys that says, do you deny your father's crimes? And she says, no, my lords. I know he must be punished. All I ask is mercy. I know my lord father must regret what he did. He was King Robert's friend. He loved him. You all know he loved him. He never wanted to be handed until the king asked him. They must have lied to him. Lord Renly or Lord Stannis or somebody. They must have lied. Joffrey says like a little bitch, he said he wasn't king. Why didn't he say that? He was badly hurt. Master Pycelle was giving him milk of the poppy. He looks to Pycelle. He wasn't himself, which is true. Otherwise, he never would have said it. Not before he said that, but whatever. And this is, again, one of my favorite moments of the episode, the look on Littlefinger's face as Varys says this. A child's face, such sweet innocence, but yet they say wisdom comes out from the mouth of babes. The look on Littlefinger's face, because he's like, oh my God, we're working for the same agenda. I think Littlefinger's realizing that him and Varys kind of want the same thing in this moment. So he's like finding joy in it. He's like, okay, I could get what I want.
They want the same thing, but for two very different reasons. And it's only partially that they want the same thing. Like, eventually, Baelish wants it all. And Varys wants it all in the hands it's supposed to be in.
Now, a couple questions here. Sansa wouldn't get... What do you think would have happened if Barristan wasn't dismissed? Kaylana says Sansa wouldn't get bitch slapped by Trant. She'd get bitch slapped by somebody else.
Yeah.
And Lady Squeeze asks as well, do you think the abuse to Sansa would have still happened with Trant? Yes. Yes, because Joffrey would have forced. It was from Joffrey. Lady Squee, yes, Lady Squee and Kaylana's great minds thinking alike. Kaylana says, true Barristan did stand by. Yeah, true what we were saying. Barristan did stand by the Mad King raping his sister. Kaylana said, Sansa's just sad and pathetic victim. Proper good girl heart. Sansa is the Chief O'Brien of the show, always getting shit on. Lady C. I announced our Deep Space Nine shows as well. We have a lot of Deep Space Nine fans in the chat. Lady Squeeze says, Sansa just makes me sad. She wouldn't have been safe and out of King's Landing if she hadn't ratted on Ned's plans to send her and Arya back to Winterfell. Like, pissed and sad at the same time. Great point, Lady Squeeze. So, a child's faith, such sweet innocence. So, Pyzel continues,
Treason! Treason! Anything else?
Treason is treason. And anything else, he says to her. And she says, if you ever have any affection in your heart for me, please do me this kindness. And Joffrey thinks for a good minute, and he says, your sweet words have moved me, but your father has to confess. He has to confess and say, I'm the king, or there'll be no mercy for him. As we close out, and it's an interesting pan out darkness shot, our episode is motherfucking over, Joe, and that is episode 8 of Game of Thrones, our first episode written by George R.R. Martin. Now, in general, Joe, what did you think of this episode? Because I talked a lot about it.
I love it.
Love it.
I love it.
It's like
this was an episode. A lot of good shit happens in this episode.
It's like Murderer's Row.
This is the point where everything kind of starts really taking form and coming to a head.
Yep.
We are like an inch from the peak of the mountain at this point. So there was just so much buildup in this episode, and it doesn't leave you with this overwhelming sense of like you're missing something at the end. You know what I'm saying? Like there's cliffhangers that, you know, or the episodes end sometimes of different TV shows, and you feel like there should have been more, or you don't really quite understand how it ends up where it's at. But by the end of this episode, everything that happens in this episode doesn't leave you with this longing feeling, aside from the regular one of just wanting more Game of Thrones.
I hear you. And I feel like you're absolutely right. It's this episode, or the end, starting with the end of episode 7 and leading into this whole episode, is really I was watching it the first time I ever watched this with my mouth open, like not believing what I was seeing. Like, is this really all happening? Is this really all happening right now? And leading into next time that we talk about an episode went further down that road. And we're only at the beginning, Joe. We're towards the end of this season, but we're only at the beginning of this madness. And you're right. The roller coaster has been going up that hill. Up that hill. And I'm motioning like you can see me. And up that hill, and then we're right at the top. We're ready to go down. We're right about to do the dive. And here we are. You just feel so satisfied. And Lady Squee, this episode is one of my favorite from the season, and in general, you just feel so satisfied by it.
Yes.
Great way of putting it.
I agree.
And I guess this is a good enough place as any to stop. I'd like to thank all of you guys for checking it out in the chat. And let's push play right here. Yeah, let's get this music going, Kick. Yeah. Oh, wait. I forgot one thing, guys. I made a promise, and I like to keep my promises. I promised one more drum solo before we leave tonight. So 1 second, Joe. Let's see. Pull your phone away, because you might have to deal with some crap here, Joe. Here we go. Drum solo.
Oh, wait.
There we go.
Before you do that, I'm actually going to say goodbye to everybody. And sorry I couldn't get on. And I will see you for our next one. And peace, homies. From Solo.
Yep. Joe, I'm going to be on tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. So if you're around, let me know.
I'll be with you.
Cool. Here we go, guys. Game of Thrones podcast. Okay, that's enough. Enough of that madness. Enough of this madness. I'll do more drum solos later. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Game of Thrones recap. We will be back with more of these later. Joe and I will talk and we'll figure out when we're going to do episode 9, episode 10, but these will be more regular. We'll try to do them at least every 2 weeks once we get into the season and figure out what our path is and what our weeks look like. And because we want to do lots of fun stuff. So these will be popping up from here and there, and we will try not to go for too long of a break without doing a new one of these, at least until we get to the end of season 1, and then we'll deal with season 2 as well. So the next couple will be relatively soon. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We will talk to you guys next time. I'll be on tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. to be talking about some of the new pilots this season and some shows. I have to go off now and go watch a couple of shows I haven't watched yet just to be ready for all the ones I want to talk about. So we'll be on tomorrow, guys. Talk to you soon. Later.